Douluo, after listening to the advice, I became a god. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 451. Are you familiar with the leader of the Purple Pearl Pirates? After opening the first meridian, Jixian felt that the airflow in his body suddenly increased, and Yunfeng's speed of running soul power also increased suddenly. Just when he thought everything was over, Yunfeng had already launched an attack on the second meridian. Is the benefactor's soul power so deep? Jixian kept his original intention. In his opinion, Yunfeng was at most a soul master, and more likely a great soul master. However, at this time, Yunfeng's soul power was as endless as the waves of the sea. The surging soul power had no tendency to weaken at all, and every impact was just right. It was just within the range that his body could bear. The control of soul power could be said to be perfect, and the soul power full of cool breath wandering in the meridians was indescribably comfortable. Time passed by minute. Finally, the last meridian was connected. Yunfeng slapped Jixian's back 13 times in a row, and a low and majestic voice sounded in Jixian's ears. Don't make a sound, or you will lose your soul power in medicine. Jixian really didn't say anything. The soul power transformed by the 10,000 years ginseng king and the increase in the opening of the 8 extraordinary meridians made him completely able to control his soul power for cultivation. Even if he was asked to give up the wonderful feeling of being like a fairy, he was unwilling to do so. Seeing Jixian practicing, Yunfeng didn't disturb him. He just brought him back on track, estimated the time when he would wake up, and sent the 7 women back to the Tandu Empire. It was not good to keep them invisible and unable to move. Yunfeng planned to take them back after the matter here was settled. The women had no objection to Yunfeng's opinion. After all, they were here to accompany Yunfeng. Seeing Yunfeng's current state, they knew that he still had his own things to do. Naturally, they didn't want to disturb their husbands. After sending the women back, he spent a long time with the other women. A day and a night passed like this, until the next morning. The groaning of the injured on the bed woke Jixian up. After waking up, Jixian saw Yunfeng sitting cross-legged in the room practicing. Yunfeng also stopped practicing at this moment. When Yunfeng slowly opened his eyes, Jixian had already finished his practice and stood up. Standing respectfully beside Yunfeng, he certainly understood how much benefit Yunfeng had brought him. At this moment, he could clearly feel that the world around him had become different. All the colors were so bright, and the eyes were even clearer. The indescribable comfort in his body made him experience an unprecedented state. Thank you, benefactor. Yunfeng smiled slightly and said, in fact, you are very talented. I opened up your 8 extraordinary meridians. In the future, you will be able to practice with half the effort. However, if you want to achieve something, you must be diligent. No matter how good your talent is, it is useless without diligent practice. Yes. Yunfeng pointed at the injured person, and Jixian nodded hurriedly. To be honest, this day and night of practice has made him forget about the outside world. Jixian honestly agreed that he should change the medicine. After changing the medicine for the injured person and feeding him something, Jixian prepared food for Yunfeng and himself. The two of them ate and talked at the same time. Benefactor, what level of soul master are you? There are many soul masters in the Purple Pearl Pirates, but you give me a different feeling from them. Jixian had lost his original indifference to Yunfeng, and only respect and admiration remained. How great is a soul master who can help a waste with 0 soul power to practice? At least he had never heard of it before. Yunfeng smiled slightly and said, you will know it naturally in the future. Tell me about your own situation, how you feel. And have you memorized the meditation route? Jixian nodded and said, I have memorized it, but it seems that no matter how I practice, there is no sign of any increase in the soul power in my body. Is it because I have practiced for too short a time? Yunfeng laughed and said, it would be a miracle if you can make further progress now. Don't you know that after a soul master reaches a certain level, he must have a soul ring before he can continue to practice? Jixian's originally very stable hand trembled slightly, and the dried fish in his hand fell on the table. You mean? Yunfeng nodded and said, If relying on the 1,000-year-old ginseng and my opening up of the 8 extraordinary meridians for you can't make you have 10th level soul power, then wouldn't my efforts yesterday be in vain? Now you need to obtain your first soul ring before you can continue to practice. If I guess correctly, your current soul power is at least above level 15. Of course, it can only be manifested after you obtain the first soul ring. Jixian looked at Yun Feng in a daze, and it took him a long time to utter a word. Benefactor, you are so great. I have never heard of anyone who can make a person with 0 soul power practice. Jixian said sincerely, thank you. Seeing Jixian keep thanking, Yun Feng waved his hand and said, don't keep thanking me, I want to ask you something. Hearing that Yun Feng seemed to have some doubts, Jixian said directly, Benefactor, if you have any questions, just ask them. As long as I know, I can tell you. Yun Feng pondered for a moment and said, Jixian, are you familiar with the leader of the Purple Pearl Pirates? Jixian nodded and said, I am familiar with him. I am the only doctor here. I have treated many pirates and they are quite recognized by me. Benefactor, do you want to meet the leader of the Purple Pearl? Yun Feng nodded. I want to find her to understand some things. There is no other meaning. After all, strictly speaking, this sea area can be regarded as the sea area of the Tandu Empire. As the king of a country, even if he knew that they were doing things like robbing the rich and helping the poor, it was also a provocation of the law. So he planned to go and see what was going on. Jixian thought for a moment and said, that should be fine. I'll take you to see her, but you should wash up first. Yun Feng had washed up before, but he changed back when he came here from the Tandu Empire Palace. After hearing Jixian's advice, he nodded and washed up briefly. Yun Feng changed into his own white robe, combed his hair, and shaved his beard. Only then did he reveal his true face. Even Jixian, who was also a man, could not help but be stunned. Yun Feng's appearance and temperament were not comparable to the pirates here, especially the calmness and elegance, which made people feel ashamed. Are you kidding? This is the result of staying in Yuxuan for several years, and later he became the emperor. If his temperament was still the same as that of a pirate, Yun Feng would basically die. After leaving the wooden house, Jixian led Yun Feng to the depths of Purple Pearl Island. As they walked, Jixian said, my benefactor, there are about 3,000 pirates on Purple Pearl Island, of which about 1,500 are capable of fighting, including 200 soul masters. The most powerful one is the leader, Purple Pearl. She is a level 68 soul emperor, very powerful. It is precisely because of her strength that she became the leader. Under her, there are 4 level 50 Earth Soul Kings. There are more than 40 large and small ships. The largest of them, Purple Pearl, can accommodate 500 pirates. It is the captain's vehicle and is very famous in the nearby waters. Chapter 452. Since you have activated your martial spirit, I don't mind playing with you. Yun Feng nodded. He didn't take this strength seriously at all, but he still wanted to see it. After passing through a dense forest, a large area of houses appeared in front of him. It looked more like a huge village. Most of the houses were made of wood and surrounded by dense forests. This location was obviously well chosen. Typhoons are prone to occur at sea, and with the protection of the surrounding forests, the village naturally needs to bear less. There were no protective measures outside the entire village, but Jixian just brought Yun Feng here and couldn't help but exclaimed, what's going on? Is there any happy event? Generally, only at the end of the year during the new year, every household will hang purple lanterns. Yun Feng then noticed that there were 2 large purple lanterns hanging in front of each wooden house in the village. It was daytime and they were not lit. Yun Feng naturally didn't care about these. The 2 were about to enter the village, but they ran into a tall pirate, who was the tall man who brought the injured here yesterday. When he saw Jixian and Yun Feng, he was immediately surprised and hurried to meet them. Hello, Dr. Jixian. Is my brother okay? Jixian said, he's fine. There are no negative reactions after taking the medicine. His injuries have stabilized, but he needs to rest. In 2 days, you can carry him home. The tall pirate breathed a sigh of relief and said, that's good. Thanks to you this time. I only have this brother. I really don't know how to thank the doctor. Don't worry. I will bring you the herbs you mentioned next time I go out to sea. "What are you here for?" Jixian said. "We want to see the captain. By the way, why are there purple lanterns hanging today? Is there any happy event?" The tall pirate slapped his forehead and smiled. "Didn't we salvage a lot of supplies yesterday? And they are all scarce goods on the mainland, so we are preparing to celebrate." When Jixian heard this, he laughed immediately. "So it's this kind of thing, but it's worth the captain hanging lanterns. It seems that the supplies are very rich." Only Yun Feng looked strange. "The mainland supplies are very rich." It sounds like the useless things that the girls said. They would look through the things in his ring and clean out. Yun Feng stuffed things into the ship whenever he had nothing to do. After the ship was attacked by the deep-sea demon Whale King, it sank. Yun Feng did not look for the supplies that he did not think were very important. In his opinion, it was just like that. "I'm going to see my brother at the doctor's place. You will know when you go to see the captain." After saying that, the tall pirate went out excitedly. Jixian did not say anything about this. After all, they had a deep brotherly love. Entering the village, along the way, seeing Jixian, regardless of gender, age or young, almost all of them would come up and say hello cordially. It can be seen that although Jixian is not very old, his status in the Purple Pearl Pirates is not low. There are quite a few pirates who have received his favor. Walking all the way to the inside of the village, Jixian pointed to a particularly tall wooden house in front and said, "That's where the captain lives." Yun Feng nodded. Just when he was about to say something, a burst of silver light suddenly came from his palm, and then Guiduina walked out directly from the void. This scene scared Jixian and the surrounding villagers. The breath alone frightened everyone to the point of being unable to move. After seeing this scene, Yun Feng also said helplessly, "Nair, why are you here?" Guiduina was not unhappy when she heard Yun Feng's address. Instead, she smiled and said directly, "You left without saying a word this morning. Those sisters are worried about your safety, so they asked me to look after you." After all, before Yun Feng also knew what Guiduina meant. Before the appearance of the sea god, Guiduina was also afraid that she would encounter any danger, but with his current strength, he actually didn't have to worry about this at all. However, his purpose could only change from being euphemistic to being direct. "Well, I know, you should restrain your breath first. This is still too much for them." After Guiduina glanced around, she slowly fell from the void, and this scene happened to be seen by a woman who came out. Yun Feng noticed the sight and subconsciously looked at the door of the room not far away with Guiduina. He saw a well-proportioned woman. She looked about 27 or 28 years old and had a very beautiful appearance. With a high nose bridge, big eyes, and short purple hair, she looked neat and heroic. At this moment, her beautiful purple eyes were filled with horror as she looked at Yun Feng and Guiduina. Her aura was not stable at this moment. She was just practicing, but she was frightened by a huge momentum and interrupted her practice. The reverse flow of soul power still had a lot of impact on her. Zizenzu was the leader of the Zizenzu pirates. She had been active in this sea for more than 10 years, but she had never been so embarrassed before. Under the influence of this momentum, the gorgeous leader was furious. "Who dares to go wild in my Zizenzu pirates?" But after saying this, she regretted it. The woman opposite was not someone she could afford to offend. After hearing this, Guiduina just glanced at Zizenzu lightly and then retracted her gaze. But just this one glance made Zizenzu lose her mind. She had never seen such a beautiful and temperamental woman. She was so beautiful. As for Yun Feng, she was stunned the moment she saw him. In her eyes, Yun Feng had a full forehead, a straight nose and a square mouth. His handsome face was full of warmth, and his black eyes were filled with purple gold light. But he seemed out of place in this place, and he had a bit of elegant temperament. His every move seemed so harmonious and satisfactory. It was the first time that Zizenzu had seen such a person in her life. Of course, Zizenzu's immunity to handsome guys was much stronger than that of ordinary women. Her sexual orientation was originally abnormal. However, she did not forget her obligations. She forced herself to hold up her figure and not let herself look embarrassed. She said directly, "Who are you two, and why did you come to our Zizenzu island?" At this time, her martial soul had been released. Her body was slightly twisted, and her whole person seemed soft. There was a bit of dead air in her eyes, and a layer of gray-blue fine scales appeared on the surface of her skin. Snake. Seeing the changes in her body, Yun Feng first guessed that her martial soul must be related to snakes. However, it was not an ordinary snake. This should be a sea snake martial soul. 2 yellow, 2 purple, 2 black. 6 soul rings with the best ratio appeared on Zizhenzu. Although Yun Feng could guess that Zizhenzu's actual age was a little older than her appearance, judging from her soul rings and the level 68 soul power Jixian mentioned, this woman's strength was indeed extraordinary. But Yun Feng was not afraid. This is a misunderstanding, but since you have already used your martial soul, I don't mind playing with you. Chapter 453, Share the Joys and Sorrows. In midair, Yun Feng's blue-silver emperor martial spirit suddenly burst out, and 6 soul rings almost shot out from his body. Purple, purple, black, 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 black. The terrifying colors of the soul rings shook Zizhenzu's heart wildly. The next moment, a circle of white halo suddenly burst out from Yun Feng's body. As soon as he came up, he released his killing god domain. Zizhenzu felt that her whole body suddenly became cold, and an incomparable cold breath came through her chest like a sharp blade. But this power was invisible and intangible. Under the coldness of her body, a sense of fear rose spontaneously, and her body subconsciously retreated. Her fighting spirit decreased, and the weakening effect of the killing god domain was immediately produced. Moreover, with the increase in the power of the killing god domain, the cold murderous intent also made Zizhenzu's body function become much slower, and her excellent strength could not be exerted by 70%. Soul power burst out, and the blue-silver domain was also released. The strength was suppressed again. At least 4 levels were reduced. Yun Feng also released his new soul skill at this time. The moment the new soul skill appeared, it directly blocked the soul power. Zizhenzu was stunned. How could she not use her soul power at all before the fight started? Exclamation mark. The crystallized armor shone brightly under the blue ocean at this moment. Jixian also reacted at this time, fearing that Yun Feng would accidentally kill Zizhenzu directly. Benefactor, don't kill her. Yun Feng's blue-silver emperor just stopped in the deep ravine between Zizhenzu's chest. The sharp breath oppressed Zizhenzu so much that she couldn't even make a sound. Yes, Zizhenzu's strength is really good. At the level of Soul Emperor, she can be regarded as a good player. However, she met Yun Feng, a man who can surpass the level and beat the titled Douluo. If it was in the sea, Zizhenzu might be able to compete with Yun Feng with her characteristics as a sea soul master. But this is land. Although the soul power levels of the two are similar, they are in terms of strength and actual combat experience. How could Purple Pearl be Yun Feng's opponent? From the moment Yun Feng released her domain, her momentum had been completely suppressed, and now she was even more defeated. Jixian rushed over with an anxious look on her face. Yun Feng and Purple Pearl had no grudges, so she directly took back her domain. And Purple Pearl felt like she had walked through the gates of hell. It was really terrible. The pirates around him also suddenly quieted down, looking at Yun Feng one by one, their eyes full of awe. It was the first time that Jixian saw Yun Feng's strength. Looking at the 6 soul rings on Yun Feng's body, especially the soul ring that exceeded the limit, the shock in his heart was indescribable. In his understanding, although Purple Pearl was not very powerful, but she was also the most powerful one on this island. Purple Pearl's actual age was 35 years old, obviously much older than Yun Feng. But in such a short time, Purple Pearl, who was quite powerful, had been defeated by her benefactor who was also a soul emperor. In addition to anxiety, Jixian also had a faint sense of pride deep in his heart. My benefactor, please don't do it. Captain Zizhenzu is not a bad person, Jixian said to Yun Feng anxiously, but Zizhenzu looked at the eyes of the pirates around her and suddenly became anxious. Dr. Jixian, don't talk. If you have the guts, kill me. Do it, do it. If you don't dare to do it, you are a turtle bastard. Come on. Zizhenzu, who was full of anger, couldn't help but curse. As the leader of the pirate group, her fierceness broke out, and the expressions of the pirates who were gathered outside looked a little weird. While talking, the captain of Zizhenzu, who had lost the oppression, was still planning to release her soul skills to fight hard. In terms of appearance, Zizhenzu is definitely the best on this island, but her hot temper is also the best. The subordinates have always been trembling with her. Who dares to easily anger her? Yunfeng was also stunned by her scolding, but soon calmed down. Looking at Zizhenzu, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wasn't he on the side of the winner? After going through so many storms, this is the first time to encounter such a situation. Even Huo Wu didn't have such a hot temper, but Gu Duoina would not tolerate it. Just one look directly made Zizhenzu feel like she was in hell. The sharp breath forcibly interrupted the soul skills that Zizhenzu wanted to release. Of course, Zizhenzu couldn't speak anymore. Although she said that she asked Yunfeng to do it, she didn't have the courage to die by herself, especially Gu Duoina's eyes. I didn't dare to speak at all. Looking at Gu Duoina's eyes, she would really kill me. And Yunfeng is not the kind of person who doesn't have a temper. It's just that Gu Duoina did affect him just now, so he didn't care. In order to avoid hearing any unpleasant words, Yunfeng's playfulness came up, and he remembered Zizhenzu's martial soul, and directly took out the inner pill of the 10-headed scorching sun snake that he had hunted before from the ring. It's said that he hunted it himself, but strictly speaking, it was a gift from Huliina. But don't worry about it so much now. After all, she is your wife. What's the difference between each other? Under the surprised gaze of Jixiang and others, he took out a golden red bead. He activated his soul power and injected it into it. Suddenly, the golden red light was bright, and it was held in his palm like a small sun. While injecting soul power into the bead, Yunfeng also took back his blue-silver emperor. Zizhenzu was about to say something to explain, but suddenly her whole body trembled, her face turned pale and she fell to the ground. Under the golden red light, her eyes were full of horror. In the golden red light, there was an extremely special breath, which made Zizhenzu unable to speak at all. What frightened her most was that the pain seemed to come from the depths of her soul. Then he said directly to the pirates around him, "Do you still want to stay here?" But something unexpected happened to Yunfeng. Hearing Yunfeng's threatening words, the pirates around him were very scared, but they still insisted on staying where they were. "Captain Zizhenzu has done us a favor. We share the good and the bad." After seeing this scene, Yunfeng looked up at the woman in front of him. Her personality charm is still very high. She can actually do such a scene. She made her subordinates willing to sacrifice their lives. As a leader, she was undoubtedly successful. Seeing their expressions, Yunfeng did not continue to ask them to leave. Instead, he squatted in front of Zizhenzu and pinched her chin with his hand under the gaze of the surrounding pirates. "You are very beautiful, but why are you so hot-tempered? I just want to ask you something. Is it worth it?" Chapter 454. So, you pirates are quite principled. But at this time, Zizhenzu couldn't speak at all. She could only look at Yunfeng's handsome face swaying in front of her. For some reason, she felt a moment of throbbing in her heart. Gu Duoina watched from the side and didn't say much. Even if Yunfeng wanted to find a woman, it wouldn't cause her too much emotion. After all, the levels are different. If she is still jealous about these things, it's not like her style at all. Moreover, in this world, the polygamy system has been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people, not only humans, but also soul beasts. As long as your strength is enough, no one will say anything to you. This is reality. Although Zizhenzu's body is extremely weak and she can't speak, her eyes can still reveal a lot of information, such as the feeling of being aggrieved. After that, Yunfeng talked a few more words to himself, and found that Zizhenzu didn't speak, so he took back the inner pill of the 10-headed scorching sun snake in his hand. "I believe you are a smart person and will not do anything stupid. If you dare to insult me again, I can't guarantee that all the residents on this island will die." Yunfeng's slightly joking words echoed in Zizhenzu's ears. Zizhenzu also realized that the man in front of her was definitely not like the nobles she and others had robbed before, but a group of people who really killed and killed decisively. Thinking of this, Zizhenzu could only endure the sense of shame in her heart. After she regained the strength to speak, she asked weakly, "Sir, what are you doing for, and what questions do you want to ask me?" Yunfeng smiled, and then said directly, "Do you know Hater?" Zizhenzu nodded and answered directly, "He is a member of our Zizhenzu pirate group." "What's wrong?" Seeing that Zizhenzu did not perfunctorily, She confirmed it directly, and Yun Feng's smile became more and more. After all, what he didn't want to see the most was to lie to himself. Now that Zizhenzu didn't lie to himself, he had a little more goodwill. What's wrong? The reason we came to this place is because of your Purple Pearl pirates. You should know, hater. It was because we boarded his sea demon and were harmed by him. We came to Purple Pearl Island. Hater brought us to the demon whale sea, awakened the demon whale and attacked us. We escaped from the 100,000-year-old deep sea demon whale, so I wanted to see how rampant the pirates in our Tandu Empire are. After hearing Yun Feng's words, Purple Pearl's pupils shrank. She said that this was the reason why she hadn't seen Hater return. Purple Pearl was silent. Yun Feng looked at the silent Purple Pearl and basically confirmed it. Just when Yun Feng wanted to continue to say something, the pirates around him mustered up the courage to speak directly. Sir, you can't blame our captain for what you said about Hater. Yes, we only robbed money, not killed people. Hater is like that on weekdays. The captain has advised and looked for him many times, but we don't know what Hater and his men did. We can hardly meet them on the sea. Yun Feng thought about it and it was true. So, you pirates are quite principled. Of course. Hearing what they said, Yun Feng was immediately angry and laughed. Then have you ever thought that some nobles have earned their wealth through their own efforts? Your robbery may have wasted most of their life's efforts. You say robbing the rich to help the poor, but aren't you doing the same thing? It sounds good, but it's disgusting. Yun Feng's words were deafening. Of course they knew, but they just didn't want to admit it. Most of the pirates here were forced out. Maybe they had some enemies, or maybe it was for other reasons. That's why they came to the sea to make a living. But these are not what Yun Feng wants to hear now. He is the king of a country. For such things and people that affect the country, it is natural to speak from the perspective of the country. And these people in front of him are obviously the unstable factors under the current social system. Zizhenzu opened her mouth several times and finally fell silent. Only one pirate stood up and said directly to Yun Feng, "What qualifications do you have to teach us? If you can solve all the unfair things in the Tandu Empire, we won't fall to this point." Yun Feng smiled, pointed at himself and said directly to Guduina, "Nair, talk to them and see if I am qualified." After Guduina looked at Yun Feng with a smile, she said directly, "I think he is qualified. After all, his name is Yun Feng, and he is the newly appointed emperor of the Tandu Empire." Everyone who heard this was shocked. Looking at the young man in front of them, they would never think of him as being above the emperor of a country. Under the puzzled gazes of the crowd, Yun Feng directly took out the crown of the Tandu Empire from the ring, and then put it on Yun Feng's head directly on Guduina's hands. Everyone who saw this scene was stunned, including Zizhenzu. After rubbing her eyes and making sure that she was not mistaken, her face was full of bitterness. "So you think I am not qualified now?" Yun Feng's words immediately made the pirate who had stood up and talked to Yun Feng before not know what to say. After moving his lips a few times, he still didn't say anything in the end. Only Zizhenzu looked at Yun Feng's crown and knelt on the ground. Then he shouted directly at the pirates and villagers who were still in a daze, "Why don't you pay homage to His Majesty the Emperor of Tandu?" Zizhenzu's words seemed to wake up these pirates. Looking at the persuasive meaning in Zizhenzu's eyes, they knew that Zizhenzu was doing this for their own good. In addition, this is a world of royal power, and there is admiration for the monarch, even if he is a pirate. Not to mention the great strength of this monarch. Plus there is a female titled Buo beside him, which really can't arouse their emotions of resistance. If they dare to say something disrespectful now, it would be courting death. So under the rebuke of Zizhenzu, everyone knelt down directly and shouted with Zizhenzu, "Greetings to His Majesty the Emperor of Tandu." Looking at this loud voice, Yun Feng was silent for a while, and then said directly, "Regarding the injustice you said, I will send people to investigate, but if it is false, you should understand the consequences. Even if you are far away at sea, the Tandu Empire will not arrest you at all costs. If what you said is true, I can recruit you. You don't even need to leave here. Of course, if you want to live on the mainland, I will also let them revoke your wanted order, but the premise is that you really didn't kill innocent people." Chapter 455. Sorry, I am superficial. When he said this, Yun Feng's eyes flashed with a cold light, which made the pirates sweat coldly and dared not move at all. Yun Feng's power now was not something that ordinary people could resist. As for your captain, I need to investigate for a few days. I will investigate your island and nearby islands to see if what you said is true. Yun Feng's words can be said to have shut everyone up again, but Zizhenzu was anxious when she heard this. Although she knew that the conditions offered by Yun Feng were already a mercy outside the law, but how many of the pirates' subordinates were clean? She didn't want to see her subordinates die just like that. Just when she was about to say something, Yun Feng added, "Don't try to bargain with me. You are not qualified to bargain, unless you all don't want to live anymore. Also during this time, when I am here, you are not allowed to leave the island until I find out the truth. Nair, help me monitor everyone on the island." In fact, Yun Feng could monitor them himself, but for the sake of his own emperor's status, Yun Feng still blinked at Douluo. Douluo naturally had no objection. After all, she belonged to Yun Feng now, so what did this little thing count for? Besides, in these endless years, her state of mind has developed that kind of calm attitude, which is nothing. After saying this, Yun Feng directly performed the crane-controlling dragon-catching technique to pull Zizhenzu to his side. The pirates looked at each other, and there was really no way for a while. They could only do what Yun Feng said. The old pirate said, "We will do what you said, but please keep your promise. At least don't hurt our leader before the truth comes out." Yun Feng said calmly, "At least I have no reason to kill her at the moment. I hope you don't give me this reason." After that, Yun Feng directly carried Zizhenzu and walked into her room. He pressed a few more acupoints on Zizhenzu, then he put her in the corner. At this time, Douluo also came to Yun Feng's side, hugged him gently, and felt that he seemed to have something on his mind. She couldn't speak, so she could only use this method. Yun Feng's heart was also warm. As the co-master of the soul beast, it was not easy for Douluo to do this for him. Gently stroking her soft long hair, smelling the fragrance, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. There is a long way to go. Originally thought that after becoming the emperor, these things would be solved quickly, but there are still so many things in private. This made him feel a little uncomfortable, feeling Yun Feng's big hand caressing his head. Douluo's face was close to Yun Feng's chest. She said something inexplicably, "The way to be a king is not like this. The affairs of the country will never be dealt with. No matter what force it is, there will be darkness. What you have to do is to sort it out and completely cut off this matter slowly. Even if you really want to kill a group, you have to support a group yourself. Otherwise, losing these people in these positions will cause great trouble." Douluo's words directly shocked Yun Feng. He didn't expect Douluo to say such a thing. In his impression, Douluo has always been the fairy who doesn't care about the fireworks of the world, but at this moment she seems to have changed. Perhaps she felt that something was wrong with Yun Feng. Douluo continued to add, "I have lived for so long, even if it is a short period of sobriety, listening to the interesting stories told by Baiji, plus the knowledge of the dragon god in my mind, it shouldn't be difficult to say these." Listening to Douluo's words, Yun Feng also smiled awkwardly. "I'm sorry, I'm superficial." Douluo shook her head and said directly, "The king cannot say sorry, no matter when." Yun Feng looked at Douluo at this moment, and her figure seemed to be glowing. After untying the knot in his heart, Yun Feng felt comfortable immediately. Jixian had been watching quietly beside Yun Feng from beginning to end. Seeing that Yun Feng had shocked the entire Purple Pearl pirates with his own strength, in his heart, the ability of this benefactor had been raised to an unprecedented height. At this time, Yun Feng also noticed Jixian, and he directly called out, "Jixian!" Hearing Yun Feng calling him, Jixian hurried to Yun Feng's side and said respectfully, "Benefactor." Yun Feng's eyes showed a gentle look. At this time, he was elegant again, and there was no more mighty edge that shocked the pirates just now. "I hope you understand my approach. This is the Purple Pearl pirate's place. I had no other choice in the situation just now. I know that you have deep feelings for this place. I promise you that I will not hurt anyone easily unless it is necessary." After hearing Yun Feng's words, Jixian obviously felt relieved and nodded vigorously. "My benefactor, no, Your Majesty, thank you. In fact, although the Purple Pearl's leader is a little bad-mouthed, she is a very good person. She often takes everyone to drive the Purple Pearl to help poor fishing villages. I know the hater you are talking about. He has a high status in the group because he brought many soul masters to join the pirate group. He has always been very arrogant. It is his bad luck to offend you this time. Yun Feng smiled slightly and said, as long as you understand me. As for the Purple Pearl leader, let her be quiet for a few days. I don't want to hear her scolding people. Jixian looked at the Purple Pearl in the corner, who was angry but unable to vent, and couldn't help but reveal a smile. Captain Purple Pearl has probably never suffered such a big loss. Her temper is something everyone in the pirate group has experienced. I didn't expect that His Majesty would cure her. Is the way you stopped her from talking one of the acupuncture points you mentioned? Yun Feng nodded and said, yes. There are many acupuncture points on the human body, including major acupuncture points, numb acupuncture points, and dead acupuncture points. Different acupuncture points with different strengths will produce special effects. I will draw an acupuncture point map for you later. You must remember these acupuncture points first. Although your soul power cannot be improved because you don't have a soul ring, you still have to persist in meditation and accumulate more. Yes, it didn't take long for the food that Yun Feng wanted to eat to be delivered. Yun Feng was naturally not afraid, let alone Guduina. Even if it was really poisonous, it would give Yun Feng a reason. After all, he had to check it out. However, after eating it, he found that there was no poison, and Yun Feng felt a little disappointed. After he finished eating, Yun Feng suddenly heard a sound. Gurgle. Turning his head, Yun Feng saw Zizenzu's face flushed and she turned her head away. He knew that she was hungry. After thinking for a while, Yun Feng walked up to Zizenzu. Do you want to eat something? I can let you go temporarily, but if you say something rude, don't blame me for being cruel. My name is Yun Feng, you can call me by my name. If you agree, just blink. After hearing what Yun Feng said, Zizenzu really blinked. Chapter 456. Are you looking for death? Yun Feng did not intentionally touch Zizenzu's body. After all, she was a woman. Although he was lustful, he still had a bottom line. He reached out and untied Zizenzu's numb and mute points. After the Aku points were untied, Zizenzu's body softened and she almost fell to the ground. She supported her body and looked at Yun Feng with complicated eyes. Do you know witchcraft? After being enlightened by Guduina, Yun Feng was obviously in a good mood. He smiled calmly and said, you should understand it as a skill. Zizenzu snorted and stopped talking. She strode to the remaining food and ate it in big mouthfuls without caring that it was cold. Her eating manner was not very good, and she did not look like a woman at all. Yun Feng muttered in his heart. After a while, Zizenzu ate all the remaining food like a whirlwind. Without even looking at Yun Feng, she walked to the corner and sat down, closed her eyes and fell asleep. There was a smile at the corner of her mouth. It can be seen that this team leader is really depressed. He did not speak. His eyes swept around the periphery, and several pirates who were looking around quickly hid their bodies. But he seemed not to see them, and sat in the middle of the hall with his eyes closed, practicing cross-legged. The sea breeze blew the trees on the island, making a rustling sound. But now it was about to enter winter, and there were few leaves in the forest. However, the temperature at sea was always higher than that inland. The marine climate made it not too cold here. As the night deepened, Yun Feng was practicing quietly, and the room seemed particularly quiet. At this time, Zizenzu, who was leaning against the corner, quietly opened her eyes, looked at Yun Feng with a complicated expression in her eyes, then showed a grimace in his direction, looked around, and quietly moved her body. The distance she moved was not long, only about 1 meter. There was a table there, and Zizenzu went directly under the table, raised her hand and pressed lightly under the table, and the floor under the table suddenly turned over, and her whole person disappeared under the table in an instant, and the whole process did not make any sound. Don't stare at her. Continue practicing. Yun Feng's voice sounded a few seconds after Zizenzu left. Ji Xiang opened his eyes. He looked at Yun Feng in confusion. Your Majesty, did you let her go on purpose? Yun Feng smiled calmly and said, otherwise, do you think she can leave here? Not only did I let her go, but she will soon feel that her strength has recovered. In half an hour, she will definitely come back with a large number of pirates. Do you believe it? Ji Xiang looked at Yun Feng, his eyes full of doubts, but he still shook his head. The captain is not that kind of person. She won't do such a thing. Yun Feng smiled and didn't explain anything. However, his mental power followed Zizhenzu to the outside. Zizhenzu opened a floor and appeared on the land. After coming out, he hurried to a place. That place was what Yun Feng told Ji Xiang. He guessed that Zizhenzu would bring a large group of pirates to surround this place, because there were already a lot of people gathered in the wooden house at this time, each with a fierce look, as if they were discussing something. Gu Dubuina could naturally hear what they were saying, so she told Yun Feng about this matter before. Seeing that they all wanted to defeat him and snatch Purple Pearl back, Yun Feng was helpless. Could it be that he, the emperor, was so unbearable? However, Jixiang's words made him more interested in Purple Pearl. He hoped that they would not take this path, otherwise he would have to kill them all. Under Yun Feng's gaze, Purple Pearl soon arrived at the destination. The moment Purple Pearl pushed the door, all the pirates subconsciously activated their soul power and looked at the door in unison. When they saw that it was Purple Pearl, they were overjoyed, but Zizhenzu said with a gloomy face, "Are you looking for death?" Zizhenzu's words immediately made all the pirates present happy, and then they said directly, "Captain, you are back? Captain, are you okay?" Zizhenzu didn't care about that, and said directly with a cold face, "What do you want to do? Rebellion? If I hadn't come, would you have planned to kill them directly?" Everyone spared their thoughts. They did think so. On the one hand, Zizhenzu was captured, and on the other hand, Yun Feng was the emperor. After a brief shock, they thought about the relationship between them when they returned to their residence. If Yun Feng really found out something, they would all be beheaded. They didn't want to die, so they thought of this way, and considered whether to kill Yun Feng directly. Who would know by then? But the plan was not implemented yet, and it was directly discovered by Zizhenzu. The pirate who came to deliver food today gave Zizhenzu a look before leaving. As a pirate, how could Zizhenzu not understand the signals from his companions before? That means they are going to take action. If you think about it carefully, you will know that they are going to take action at night. So Purple Pearl took the risk to run out. Let's not talk about whether they can kill Yun Feng. Even if they really kill Yun Feng, what should they do next? And the title Duo next to Yun Feng will sink the entire Purple Pearl Island if he is angry. However, these pirates seemed to have lost their minds and said directly, "Captain, how many of us pirates have clean hands? It's not that we want to rebel, but if we don't rebel, we will die. When he finds out, we will still die." After a moment of silence, Purple Pearl's voice became low, and she said directly, "Do you have the confidence to defeat the titled Duo around him? And this emperor is not a weakling either. Just a bead can suppress me, the strongest one. You will only accelerate your death by going. Now listen to me. Let's go to his residence together to apologize and beg for forgiveness. Our hands are already stained with blood, but your children's hands are not. Don't do anything stupid. By then, it will not only be you who will be destroyed, but also your family. Besides, I heard from people on the mainland that this new emperor is not bad, and your previous grievances may really be washed away for you." Purple Pearl said a lot of words in one breath, just to persuade her brothers not to do stupid things. Obviously, Purple Pearl had great charisma. Soon, all the pirates stood there in despair, tears falling from their eyes. They seemed to be regretting their recklessness. Purple Pearl felt very uncomfortable watching this scene, and said directly, "Okay, save some emotion and repent later, and see if His Majesty can be more tolerant." Chapter 457. Do you hope this is fake? All the pirates nodded. There was no other choice now. Purple Pearl had explained all the pros and cons clearly. Yun Feng had already withdrawn his mental power when Purple Pearl entered the room. He didn't want to continue listening or watching because he was afraid of polluting his ears. He knew without thinking that he was scolding him. Jixiang knew that he couldn't persuade his benefactor at this time. He could only pray that the leader would not do anything stupid. After all, Jixiang still respected the leader very much. Although Jixiang knew that he couldn't persuade him, he could still reassure him. What if he forgot about it later? What if, benefactor, the blood-sealing method you mentioned before? Yun Feng was stunned. He almost forgot about it. Now that Jixian mentioned it, Yun Feng naturally knew what Jixian meant and didn't care much. Even if they really fought, Purple Pearl and others were just jumping clowns. They were not a match for them at all. I'll show you another unique skill of mine later. Your martial spirit is needles, which is very suitable for this unique skill. But just when Yun Feng was about to speak, it was already lively outside. Purple Pearl's voice rang out outside. Hearing this voice, Yun Feng smiled at Jixian and said, "Look, I was right." Jixian didn't know what to say at this time. Why are the captains so irrational? This is the emperor of the Tandu Empire. At this time, the outside of Zizenzu's room was already densely surrounded by pirates. Torches were shining, making the village brightly lit, and almost all the soul masters gathered in the inner circle, looking at the wooden house with ashen faces. At this time, Zizenzu also gave her final instructions to her subordinates. No matter what he says later, you have to bear it. Do you hear me? Think about your family and children. At this time, an elegant voice came from the room. Zizenzu, haven't you heard that saying? The evil of heaven can be forgiven, but the evil of one's own will cannot be forgiven. From a distance, the door opened directly, and she could see the scene in the room. Yun Feng was still sitting in the original position, not surprised at all by her appearance outside, and even sat there with his eyes closed. Although Zizenzu herself would never admit it, Yun Feng's magnanimity and calmness still made her secretly a little impressed. Slowly standing up, Yun Feng patted Jixian's shoulder. Try to experience my skills as much as possible. Don't try to see clearly. This unique skill first requires a big picture view. As for everything else, it can be cultivated through acquired training. Benefactor, I believe there must be a misunderstanding here. Yun Feng waved his hand, indicating that he should not talk anymore. He had given them a chance, but they didn't know how to cherish it. When Yun Feng appeared at the door of the wooden house, all the pirates stopped consciously and looked at Yun Feng nervously. Then, in Yun Feng's astonishment, they knelt down one by one, without any intention of wanting to kill him, as Yun Feng had heard before. What are you doing? Aren't you afraid that your affairs will be discovered and want to kill me? Now that your captain has been rescued, you should have nothing to worry about. As the captain, Zizenzu also knelt down after hearing Yun Feng's question. Your Majesty, they were obsessed with saving the people before, so they were planning something illegal. Now they have been stopped by me. This was all caused by me. I hope your Majesty will show mercy. Zizenzu's words surprised Yun Feng a little. Looking at the expressions of the pirates, they were all stunned. They wanted to say something, but when they remembered what Zizenzu said before, they remained silent. They still have families, whether they are wives, children, parents or relatives. These are not what they can give up. When they look at Zizenzu, they all have tears in their eyes. Yun Feng also became interested at this time. Looking at this scene, it seems that it is indeed not what he thought, so he shouted directly into the house. Nair, is it as they said? Guduina's cold voice slowly came out from inside. Yeah, Yun Feng nodded, understanding all this. Looking at Zizenzu and smiling, you said you want me to show mercy? What can you show mercy? Zizenzu immediately thought of the interesting things she heard about the Tandu Empire when she was at the land port before. It was said that the new emperor of the Tandu Empire married nearly 30 women at one time, including beauties from almost all forces. Zizenzu looked at herself and didn't seem to be too bad, so she said to Yun Feng directly under Yun Feng's gaze, I am willing to give everything I have, including myself. I will do anything to be a slave. Seeing this, Yun Feng couldn't help but smile, and said directly, how embarrassing, they have to bear the mistakes they made. Besides, being able to come to my side is a reward for you. You know, ordinary people are not even qualified to be my dog. Zizenzu's eyes dimmed a lot when she heard this. Yes, as the ruler of a country, what kind of women can't he get? Would he come to ask her for a same-sex? And she had been contradicting him before, and his men even wanted to kill him. After putting herself in Yun Feng's shoes, Zizenzu also felt that if she stood in Yun Feng's position, she would not let herself and others go. The pirates who had already buried their heads were eager to commit suicide on the spot. If they were not reckless, perhaps when the investigation was found out, only they would die, and it would not affect their families. It would not affect the captain, who had never done those things. Just when they were desperate, Yun Feng's voice rang again. But it's not that I can't give you a chance. Hearing this, Zi Zhenzu and others raised their heads in unison. Yun Feng smiled slightly and said directly, Zi Zhenzu, you will be my maid in the future. As for you pirates, tell us all the sins you have committed. At that time, we will not need our Tandu Empire to spend too much time to investigate. I will not kill you, as long as you pay for the sins you have committed. I will form an army on the sea, and you will be one of them. All you have to do is to protect the safety of this sea area. Zi Zhenzu and the pirates who heard Yun Feng's words looked completely unbelievable. Not only does he not blame himself and others, but he can also have a formal job and career. The navy sounds much more comfortable than pirates. After a moment of silence, Zi Zhenzu said to Yun Feng tremblingly, Your Majesty, is this true? Yun Feng's mouth curved slightly, and then said, Do you hope it's false? Chapter 458 Surrender. Upon hearing this, Zi Zhenzu was immediately ecstatic. She looked at the pirates behind her and signaled them with her eyes. Then she shouted, Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you, Your Majesty. The cheers lasted for a long time, and Yun Feng disappeared in a flash. Then, without waiting for a few minutes, Yun Feng walked out of the void again, holding a few people in official uniforms in one hand, and said directly to the pirates, Tell them all your things, they will handle it properly. The moment Yun Feng disappeared just now almost scared them, and now it is still the same when he reappears. When he saw this, he couldn't help but sigh that it was fortunate that the captain had just pulled him and others. Otherwise, with this mysterious move, he and others would not be able to touch him at all. At this time, Zi Zhenzu also slowly stood up, with indescribable emotions in her eyes. At this time, she had completely surrendered. Just looking at Yun Feng, her expression was a little weird, and she didn't say a word for a long time. Behind her, all the pirates who looked at Yun Feng, their eyes could not contain anything other than fear. Yun Feng turned his gaze to Zi Zhenzu again. He did not urge her, but just looked at her calmly. Zi Zhenzu gritted her teeth, knelt down in front of Yun Feng and said, Master, from now on, I am yours. After that, she rolled her eyes at the pirates behind her and said, He is my master, and he will be the master of our Zi Zhenzu Island in the future. What are you still standing there for? The pirates woke up at this time. The pirates who had already stood up suddenly became shorter as a whole. Master. They didn't call reluctantly, but instead had a feeling of being convinced. Yun Feng convinced these pirates with his strength and personality charm. Everyone get up, it's getting late, let's go back and rest. Yun Feng waved his hand and turned to walk into the wooden house. When Zi Zhenzu and others heard this, they subconsciously turned around and wanted to leave. But before Zi Zhenzu took a few steps, Yun Feng called them. Zi Zhenzu, my little maid, where are you going? Zi Zhenzu was stunned when she heard this. Is there anything else, master? When Zi Zhenzu was confused, Yun Feng smiled and said, You said you are my maid. What are you talking about? I need service, and I will only remind you this time. Don't blame me for being rude in the future. Zi Zhenzu was not stupid to begin with. She was just confused by these things before, so she didn't remember these things. Now when she heard Yun Feng mention it, her face suddenly turned red, and she said weakly, Okay master, I got it. Then she followed Yun Feng into the house. Jixian wanted to go in, but Yun Feng's soul power directly locked the door. Jixian reacted, slapped himself, and left in a hurry. Guidobuina had no objection to this, but at Yun Feng's invitation, she personally guided this new sister. After knowing Guidobuina's identity, everyone in Yun Feng's harem was in awe of Guidobuina and took the initiative to call her sister. After all, Guidobuina was so old that she had been there before the Xingdu Great Forest was born. As you can imagine, all the people in the harem are not as big as her. In this regard, even if Guidobuina did not fight, or came later, the girls still called her sister. After all, it always felt weird to hear Guidobuina calling her sister. On this day, Zi Zhenzu finally paid a painful price for her behavior and recklessness. The wailing sound continued until dawn and did not disappear. It was just shy at the beginning, then became passionate, and then became weak. The process was full of twists and turns. After it stopped completely, Yun Feng hugged the current Zizenzu and said slowly, "What do you say? Do you dare to scold me in the future?" Hearing Yun Feng's words, Zizenzu rolled her eyes at Yun Feng, but less than a second later, she remembered how Yun Feng treated her, and her eyes immediately revealed a trace of fear, and then before Yun Feng could react, she squeezed out a smile. "Master, I will never dare again." Seeing that Zizenzu has become so obedient now, Yun Feng smiled and was very satisfied. "If you dare to speak rudely again, don't blame him for serving by family rules. You know, he is not a nice guy." After being gentle for a long time, Zizenzu asked Yun Feng directly, "Master, as the king of a country, why did you come to such a place?" Zizenzu was very curious. In her impression, such a place should not be a place for the emperor to come. After hearing Zizenzu's question, Yun Feng looked at it with interest, and then said slowly, "If I didn't come to such a place, how could I meet my little maid?" Zizenzu's face immediately turned red. No matter how tough she was still a woman after all, not to mention that Yun Feng was now surrounded by a strong person of Gu Duoyina's level. Anyone would be shy, so Zizenzu lightly hit Yun Feng's chest in annoyance. After Yun Feng smiled, he didn't hide anything and directly told his destination. "We were planning to go to Poseidon Island. As for what happened later, I've said before that we were tricked by haters from your pirate group. Fortunately, we were strong enough to prevent them from succeeding. So you should know that, Poseidon Island." Zizenzu basically didn't listen to what she said later. Her mind was full of Poseidon Island. "Master, are you going to Poseidon Island? Do you know the situation on Poseidon Island?" Zizenzu nodded. "Jixian, who was with you before, came from Poseidon Island. After several transfers, he finally came to our Zizenzu Island. But Jixian may be the only one who knows about the things on the island. I'm not very clear about it." Yun Feng nodded. "Then I'll go find him to find out the situation. You can catch up on some sleep here." Zizenzu's face turned red again, and then she nodded. Yeah, Yun Feng's energy was particularly strong now, so it was no problem for only two people. Seeing that the sky outside was already bright, Yun Feng put on his clothes and strode out of the room, leaving Gu Duoyina and Zizenzu staring at each other. Gu Duoyina was fine, but Zizenzu couldn't resist the fatigue. After saying hello to Gu Duoyina, she fell into a deep sleep. Yun Feng outside had found Jixian at this time. "I heard from your team leader that you came from the Sea Guide Island. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 459, Benefactor. You are the king of a country. Although Jixian didn't know what his benefactor meant by this, he still nodded. "I used to live in that place. I was born on Poseidon Island and lived there until I was 10 years old. My parents are from Poseidon Island, but they don't understand why I was born with zero soul power. People who live on Poseidon Island must go through a test when they are 18 years old. Only those who pass the test can stay and serve Lord Poseidon, and those who fail the test will be sent away. I was born with zero soul power, and there is no possibility of passing the test at all. So, last year, when my parents knew that I was here, they asked Captain Purple Pearl to take care of me, because I couldn't practice martial arts. Since I was a child, I learned some medical skills from the uncles and aunts on the island. After coming here, I became a full-time doctor here. My cousin was also sent here, and his situation is similar to mine." Looking at Yun Feng's eyes, Jixian also took the initiative to say, "Poseidon Island is a very special place. I don't know what you are going to do on Poseidon Island." After thinking about it, Yun Feng still didn't tell the truth. After all, the truth would only bring unnecessary trouble to Jixian, so Yun Feng smiled and said, "Nothing. We went to Poseidon Island for training. I read a book before that said Poseidon Island is a magical and dangerous place with many powerful sea soul masters and sea soul beasts. You should be able to see that our soul power is relatively high among our peers. After reaching the current level, it is difficult to maintain a rapid improvement in strength. I have carefully studied the methods of many soul masters' cultivation and found that soul masters are most likely to improve their own strength, stimulate their potential, and break through their limits when they are under great pressure or even at the moment of life and death. Therefore, we came here this time to go to Poseidon Island for training and to break through ourselves. Jixian looked at Yunfe and thought of the woman yesterday. He thought to himself, "Benefactor, your soul power is not relatively high, it should be terrifyingly high." "Benefactor, if you are going to Poseidon Island for training, I advise you to give up this idea," Jixian said earnestly, with a look of even a little urgency on his face. Feng asked calmly, "Why?" Jixian said, "Because, there are only two possibilities for outsiders when they get there. Either they are turned away, or they can never leave after entering." Feng nodded silently and said, "I have heard about this situation too." "Can you tell me in detail the origin of this rule of Sea God Island?" Jixian said, "Sea God Island can be said to be a special soul master world, or it can be said to be a world of sea soul masters. Sea soul masters are different from land soul masters. Only in the world of the sea can their strength be exerted to the greatest extent. It can be said that the sea is their domain. Here, land soul masters of the same level can hardly compete with sea soul masters. Just like land soul masters believe in the Wuhan Palace, sea soul masters also have their own beliefs. The belief of sea soul masters is not a sect, but a god. The sea god. Every sea soul master believes that the sea god does exist and is in charge of everything in the sea. He is the ancestor of the sea soul masters. It is under the protection of the sea god that the sea soul masters can possess powerful abilities and control the power from the sea. Perhaps, for land soul masters, the spirit hall is not necessarily a belief. However, in the hearts of sea soul masters, the sea god is their only and absolute belief. No sea soul master dares to blaspheme the sea god. And the Sea God Island is the holy land of sea soul masters, that is, the place where the sea god is enshrined. The great priests of all generations serve as the messengers of the sea god and lead the most powerful sea soul masters to worship Lord Sea God on the Sea God Island. Any soul master who arrives on the Sea God Island needs to go through a test. This test is not given by the soul masters on the Sea God Island, but by Lord Sea God. Feng couldn't help but make a joke when he saw Jixian looking so serious. "Is there really a sea god?" Hearing Feng's words, Jixian said solemnly and affirmatively, "Yes, there must be. Lord Sea God really exists. Most of the soul masters on Sea God Island have seen Lord Sea God appear with their own eyes." "Then what you said about the test given by Sea God, is it this appearance?" Jixian was a little confused, but after thinking for a while he said, "No. It seems to be a way of prophecy from Lord Sea God. The test is carried out through the High Priest. The High Priest is called Lord Sea God's servant, guarding Lord Sea God's authority all his life, and also exercising Lord Sea God's rights." Feng smiled and said, "In that case, it is still a test from people." Jixian's eyes seemed a little weird. "My benefactor, I cannot describe this. Only those who have truly experienced the test can understand what it is like. Different people experience completely different tests. Some people's tests are very simple as going into the sea to pick up a shell, but some people's tests are very difficult, and they must withstand the attack of the Great Priest. The test varies from person to person. Generally speaking, it is related to the strength of the person being tested. The sea soul masters living on Sea God Island need to go through a test when they reach the age of 18. Those who pass the test can stay on Sea God Island to serve Lord Sea God, otherwise they will be expelled from Sea God Island. If the test is too difficult, they may even die in the test. Foreign soul masters, regardless of their age, must directly accept the test. If they fail, they will be expelled immediately. If they succeed, they must also stay on Sea God Island. Anyone who passes the test, whether it is the original Sea Soul Master of Sea God Island or any foreign soul master, must not leave Sea God Island for the rest of their lives, otherwise they will bear the wrath of Sea God. I don't recommend you go because the Sea God Island test is extremely difficult for outsiders, especially land spirit masters. You may die in the test. Even if you pass the test, you will never be able to leave there. Sea God Island is a holy place for sea spirit masters, not a place suitable for training. The most important thing is, benefactor, you are the king of a country. Yun Feng smiled slightly and said, we have considered these. For us, if we can enter Sea God Island and pass the test of Sea God Island, it is a kind of training. How to leave Sea God Island with strength is also a kind of training. If we can't leave there with our own strength, then our training this time is not successful. Jixian, I know your good intentions, but this trip to Sea God Island is imperative for us. Jixian looked at Yun Feng's calm and determined eyes. He couldn't help but get a little anxious. But, benefactor, you don't know how difficult the test of Sea God Island is. Not to mention Land Soul Masters. Many Sea Soul Masters from outside who wanted to pass the test ended up dying in it. I have lived on Sea God Island for more than 10 years, and I have never heard of a Land Soul Master being able to become a member of Sea God Island. The strength of the Great Priest is unimaginable. Chapter 460. Almost everyone who tried to do this died. Yun Feng smiled and said, I understand what you said, but if you retreat when you know the difficulties, then you will never be able to become a truly powerful spirit master. In my opinion, the sea god you mentioned should really exist. I believe this. When a person's power reaches a level that no one can reach, he can be called a god. I think that the sea god you mentioned, it is very likely that he is an extremely powerful sea spirit master who has broken through the limit and can fully mobilize the power from the sea, or even all the power in the world. No one can compete with him. This is why he is called the sea god. As a spirit master, this is also our goal. I have decided to go to the Sea God Island in 3 days. Jixian didn't say anything else. Although he didn't spend much time with Yun Feng, he also knew that as long as it was decided by his benefactor, it would not be easily changed. After Yun Feng learned the detailed information from Jixian, he returned to the room directly and told Zizhenzu about his plan. The sea breeze blew, and the sun's rays made the slightly undulating sea glow with thousands of brilliance. A large ship was sailing fast in the sea, with a mast erected on the hull and a huge purple sail. This was the Purple Pearl, which was very famous in this sea area. It was the vehicle of Purple Pearl pirates' leader Purple Pearl. Yun Feng had brought all the girls over, and now they were standing in a row on the side of the ship, staring into the distance. After the incident with the deep-sea demon whale, they finally set out on the road to Poseidon Island again. Although the process was a bit tortuous, the result was still good, wasn't it? My ship is fast, and it will take at most 2 days to reach the vicinity of Poseidon Island. Purple Pearl stood beside Yun Feng and said. When she heard that Yun Feng and the others were going to Poseidon Island, Purple Pearl immediately volunteered to send them over. Obviously, she also knew the situation of Poseidon Island. Now that her identity has changed, she is no longer the leader of a pirate group, but the commander of the Tandu Navy, and also a member of Yun Feng's harem. There were many concerns about Yun Feng, so she came here in person this time. However, Master, the ship cannot really reach the Sea God Island. It can only stop near the Sea God Island. There are still many brothers here. After that, we can only go there by ourselves. Moreover, there are many powerful sea soul beasts in the sea area near the Sea God Island. If the ship approaches, it will definitely be attacked. Yun Feng nodded, not really caring. This is why he brought Gu Dubuina here this time. Zizhenzu looked at the calm expression on Yun Feng's face, and her heart was also much more at ease. Then Zizhenzu said a lot of things to pay attention to, and then just looked at Yun Feng's figure and unconsciously leaned over. Yun Feng did not refuse, but called all the girls over. The girls leaned on Yun Feng's arms. Their beautiful big eyes blinked at the endless sea, without any scruples, just leaning on their lovers' arms affectionately, enjoying the breeze, and feeling at ease. The next 2 days of the voyage were very smooth. During the voyage, Zizhenzu carefully described the various sea soul beast territories that they would pass by during this journey. All the territories of sea soul beasts above the level of 10,000 years need to be bypassed, although with the strength of Purple Pearl, ordinary 10,000-year sea soul beasts can still be dealt with, but the Purple Pearl cannot. No matter how solid the ship is, it cannot withstand the attack of a powerful sea soul beast. But Yun Feng said no. After all, he and Gu Dubuina are here. Yun Feng also doesn't believe that any soul beast dares to trouble him. According to Purple Pearl, No one can know how many sea soul beasts there are in the sea, but she knows that there are at least 3 sea soul beasts of the 100,000-year level. Among them, the deep-sea demon whale that Yun Feng and his friends encountered is the most powerful one. In addition to it, there is another sea soul beast in the distant sea, and the last one is lurking near the sea god island. It is said that it used to be the mount of the sea god. Its strength is second only to the deep-sea demon whale, and it is also one of the overlords in the sea. In the distance, a small black dot appeared on the horizon. Purple Pearl has been standing on the bow and looking around. After seeing this black dot, she immediately ordered the sailors to drop anchor and stop the ship. Yun Feng and others also knew that they were about to arrive at their destination and had already made preparations. Zizhenzu came to Yun Feng and said slowly, "Master, we have reached the bottom now. If we go further, we will reach the territory of Sea God Island. If any ship enters this area, it will be immediately attacked by the guardian beast of the island, which is the 100,000-year soul beast I told you about. We must be careful when we cross the sea later. The guardian beast is extremely terrifying and very aggressive. Even the deep-sea demon whale is afraid of it." Ning Rong said on the side, "I say, Sister Z, you always talk about guardian beasts and so on. What exactly is this guardian beast?" Zizhenzu said, "The guardian beast is a shark that has been practicing for 100,000 years, and it is the most ferocious species of sharks, the demon soul great white shark, which has the title of ocean hunter. It is the most aggressive and ferocious sea soul beast. Even a 1,000-year level demon soul great white shark can compete with an ordinary 10,000-year level sea soul beast. Its size is not as big as the deep-sea demon whale, and it is estimated to be about 20 meters long. But its speed is far beyond the reach of the deep-sea demon whale. It is impossible to escape from its attack. Moreover, since this island guarding beast settled here, at least hundreds of demon soul great white sharks have gathered in the nearby waters, forming a natural barrier." Listening to Zizhenzu's words, Yun Feng couldn't help but said, "As far as I know, about 20 years ago, a group of land soul masters came to Poseidon Island and successfully landed, and started a battle with the sea soul masters of Poseidon Island. Although they were almost wiped out, I haven't heard that they were attacked before landing on the island." Zizhenzu blinked. "Master, do you know about this?" "I heard it from my elders. Actually, it's like this, because the demon soul great white shark has a huge appetite and there are too many of them living here, so every half a month, they will go out hunting under the leadership of the 100,000-year-old island guardian beast, and each time is about 3 days. The land soul masters were lucky to land on the Sea God Island 20 years ago, just in time to catch up with the demon soul great white shark hunting." Yun Feng suddenly realized, "I see, I don't know if we will be so lucky today." Zizhenzu shrugged and said, "I don't know either. No one can figure out the habits of the demon soul great white shark, and almost everyone who tried to do so died." Chapter 461, Weighing Anchor and Returning Home. Although Zizhenzu said that it didn't matter, the worry in her eyes was evident, and Yun Feng naturally saw it. "Don't worry, we are very strong. It's okay, get ready to go up." Zizhenzu was stunned for a moment. "Don't wait any longer. Observe for a while." Yun Feng shook his head and said, "You also said that no one can study the habits of the demon soul great white shark clearly. We will find a way." Seeing that Yun Feng had made up his mind, Zizhenzu suddenly thought of something and said to Yun Feng directly, "Master, if you really encounter a demon soul great white shark, don't hurt anyone, even the weakest, otherwise, you will be attacked by all the demon soul great white sharks. If you want to land on Poseidon Island, the best way is to wait. Although I don't understand the habits of the demon soul great white shark, but there is one thing I can be sure of. Every night when it is darkest is when they are the least active. At that time, the chances of crossing the sea will be greater." Zizhenzu didn't know why this was the case. After being with Yun Feng, it seemed as if she was thinking about him all the time. They were obviously in a hostile relationship before, but after just a few days of getting along, she completely fell in love with Yun Feng, so she told him everything in detail. After taking a look at her subordinates, Zizhenzu also said goodbye. Then she shouted directly to the sailors who were reluctant to leave, "Weigh anchor and return." The Zizenzu moved, turned the bow, and set sail in the direction from which it came, and soon disappeared from sight. Watching the Zizenzu gradually go away, Zizenzu turned around and looked at Yun Feng and said directly, "Master, how can we get up? Don't we have any tools now?" Yun Feng smiled slightly and took out a model of a ship from his ring. With a stream of soul power injected into it, the Long Yuan boat suddenly turned into a stream of light and floated up to the sea. The boat body quickly increased in size, and in the blink of an eye it had become a special boat about 12 meters long. The Long Yuan boat was crystal clear, as if it was carved from colorless crystal, with a faint white halo on the surface. It didn't make a sound when it fell into the sea. The bow of the boat looked like a dragon head, and the tail was like a fish tail, with 4 wings like fish fins on each side. The whole body is milky white, as if carved from jade. The most peculiar thing is that this Long Yuan boat itself is sealed. At this time, the hatch on the top is opened, revealing a total of 12 seats inside. There is a handle for the oar inside, except for the 4 seats at the front and the back. There is one on each seat. The wing-like oar is also very peculiar. The whole body is shuttle-shaped, which is the best shape to reduce resistance. Under the leadership of Yun Feng, everyone floated down and landed on the Long Yuan boat. The Long Yuan boat did not even shake because of their landing. It was very stable. Yun Feng had already learned how to use this Long Yuan boat through his soul power. The 8 of them just sat in the 8 positions with handles. Yun Feng raised his hand and pressed on the crystal ball in front of him, which was the size of a human head, and injected a stream of soul power. The hatch on the top closed immediately, isolating the air and sound outside. About half of the volume of the Long Yuan boat has been submerged in the sea. When looking down, you can see the strange ocean world below. There is a good line of sight in 360 degrees throughout the body, and there is no blind spot at every angle. Yun Feng stood up, bent down, and sat on the crystal ball at the bow, which was the rudder of the Long Yuan boat. From here, the Long Yuan boat can be controlled in various ways. Yun Feng said excitedly, "Let's try to control this Long Yuan boat first." As he spoke, his spiritual power had already connected with the Long Yuan boat. Under the urging of his soul power, the Long Yuan boat sank quietly and sank into the sea. According to Yun Feng's instructions, the women also moved the handles in front of them. The 8 wings on both sides of the hull outside, like fish fins, also moved suddenly. With a whoosh, the Long Yuan boat broke through the water and moved forward in the sea. Everyone just moved the oars, but it had already jumped out, this time at least more than 20 meters away. It's just that everyone's strength was not even. It jumped out, but it turned sideways in the sea and turned the bow, causing everyone's body to tilt under the action of centrifugal force. However, everyone's eyes lit up, so fast. This is worth the money. The speed of the Long Yuan boat was beyond everyone's expectations. They all clearly felt that they did not use much force to pull the oars, but the wings like fish fins generated a lot of thrust during the swing. Yun Feng thought silently for a moment, and then said, 3 times, "I don't know what special method this soul guide uses to make the wings that act as the oars exert more than 3 times the force you use. Moreover, as it moves forward, the stern like a fish tail will swing and generate thrust. I just experienced it. The thrust of the fish tail is controlled by me. The stronger the soul power injected, the greater the thrust generated. The same is true for your oars. The greater the force used, the faster it moves forward." Everyone is either young or a homegirl soul beast, so they have different degrees of curiosity and interest in new things. Under the guidance of Yun Feng, they began to practice operating the Long Yuan boat. As Yun Feng said, when everyone injected soul power into the handle in their hands, the speed of the Long Yuan boat would reach an extremely amazing level. During the first test, the entire boat even flipped over due to the uneven force on both sides. However, after flipping over for a few weeks, it returned to normal in the sea, which was very strange. Yun Feng and the girls have been together for so many years, and they have cooperated with each other very well. It took about an hour for them to basically master the operation of the Long Yuan boat and control it relatively stably. With the concerted operation of everyone, The 12-meter-long Long Yuan boat swam in the sea like a fish. Looking at the various moving scenes in the transparent sea water around, everyone felt a little intoxicated, especially the girls, most of whom saw things under the sea for the first time. Without really diving into the sea, you will never understand what it is like. In the blue sea, there are reefs, corals, and fish of various colors. There are also some creatures that they can't even name, colorful and dazzling. The sea water in this area is not deep, only about 200 meters, and the reefs below are like mountains, ups and downs. Just after an hour, Yun Feng controlled the Long Yuan boat to surface. There is a white stone bar in front of the crystal ball of the Dragon Abyss boat. When the Dragon Abyss boat is on the water, the stone bar is white. Once it dives underwater, it immediately turns blue, and gradually turns red from one end as time goes by. When it turns completely red, it means that the air in the boat is insufficient and it must surface for air. Breathing the moist air on the sea, Ning Rong around sighed. This Dragon Abyss boat is worth 100,000 gold soul coins, not to mention 10,000 gold soul coins. Except for its lack of attack and defense capabilities, it is almost perfect. If you had known it was so useful, why did you rent a boat to go out to sea before? Chapter 462. What a vast ocean. There is not even the ability to control water. Yun Feng smiled slightly and said, that also requires a sea chart. The sea chart we have now is the result of the Purple Pearl pirates' many years of sailing on the sea. We didn't have this good thing when we first entered the sea, and this is also a brand new experience. Zhu Zuqing and Zhu Xiaoyun looked at each other and said directly, Husband, the speed of this Long Yuan boat is extremely amazing. Can we rely on its speed to rush directly to the Sea God Island? Yun Feng shook his head and said, it can be possible. With Nair's protection, no matter how fast the Long Yuan boat is, nothing will happen. But that would not be fun at all. What should we do? Do we have to wait? This is not a solution. After Yun Feng smiled, under the gaze of the women, his eyebrows lit up, and the vast sea cover shining with blue light had fallen into his palm. The women were all smart people, and they immediately knew what he meant when they saw the vast sea cover in his hand. For such beautiful things under the sea, they also wanted to experience more, especially when they were with Yun Feng. Yun Feng also saw that if the vast sea universe cover could help the Long Yuan boat become invisible, then they could have fun in the sea. The hatch closed again, and Yun Feng also released his vast sea universe cover's own skill, Vast Sea Bodyguard. With a flash of blue light, the Long Yuan boat was completely covered. However, something unexpected happened to everyone. The women felt that the surroundings were empty, and the Long Yuan boat successfully entered the invisible state. But what made them laugh and cry was that within the range of the vast sea universe cover, no water could enter. The triangular blue color took the Long Yuan boat and slowly sank into the depths of the sea. Since there was no water, the Long Yuan boat could not move forward at all. Yun Feng first looked at the boat body sinking into the depths of the sea in astonishment, and then reacted immediately. This vast sea universe cover is waterproof? Not smart at all. Too rubbish. As he said, he immediately retracted the vast sea universe cover that was released, and suddenly, the sea water rushed in, and then he regained control of the Long Yuan boat. What's the matter with the vast sea? It doesn't even have the ability to control water. Gu Dubuina was a little speechless. Are all the artifacts now so useless? Her silver dragon spear is still the best. Yun Feng is now trying to recall the details he had seen in the past. What is wrong? After recalling it, an idea suddenly popped up in Yun Feng's mind. Although the vast sea universe cover cannot help the Dragon Abyss boat move forward, we have another way. However, we still have to test whether the vast sea universe cover's ability to avoid water will be affected by the pressure change in the water. As he spoke, under the puzzled gaze of the girls, Yun Feng once again released the treasured skill of the Soul Guide, the Vast Sea Bodyguard. Under the blue light, the Dragon Abyss boat slowly sank, slowly diving into the deep sea. The lower the boat went, the darker the light around it became. When the depth exceeded 100 meters, the sea outside had become pitch black, and only the light blue light emitted from the vast sea universe cover could illuminate the surroundings. The Long Yuan boat was sinking, and Yun Feng was always watching the changes on the vast sea universe cover. According to the introduction of the auctioneer when buying the Long Yuan boat, the Long Yuan boat can withstand water pressure up to 300 meters deep. At this time, they were in the Long Yuan boat. Even if the vast sea body cover could not withstand the water pressure, they could ensure safety in the Long Yuan boat. After diving more than 100 meters, Yun Feng suddenly felt that the vast sea body cover had changed. With awe in his heart, he immediately watched carefully and was ready to inject more soul power into it at any time. However, to his surprise, the vast sea body cover was not unable to withstand the pressure, but gradually became brighter under the increasing water pressure. Gathering the purple extreme divine light and observing carefully, Yun Feng found that outside the vast sea body cover, there were constantly some extremely fine blue light spots merging into it. Not only did it not destroy the vast sea body cover, but it gave him a sense of fulfillment. What's going on? Could it be that the vast sea body cover is absorbing the power of the sea? Through careful observation, Yun Feng confirmed that his idea was correct. What surprised him most was that after the vast sea universe cover absorbed the energy of the sea through its own skill, the vast sea bodyguard, his own body began to change. After the last time, the burning sensation from the soul bone was much relieved, but now as the vast sea universe cover absorbed the energy of the sea, the burning sensation began to increase again, and it was getting more and more intense. But the burning sensation did not make him feel uncomfortable, but instead he felt as if his body had become fuller. Although the soul power in his body was not affected at all, but Yun Feng felt refreshed, and his body's reactionability and attention were rapidly improving. Is this considered a free ride? Such an idea suddenly popped up in Yun Feng's mind. Of course, he knew that this was a gift from the sea god, but he did not feel unhappy at all. On the contrary, he was very happy. After all, as long as it did not affect his body, it would be fine. Moreover, the vast sea universe cover had already become a part of his body since it absorbed his blood. Although it was not a soul bone, it existed in another special form. The water in this sea area is not very deep. According to Yun Feng's calculation, the Long Yuan boat sank about 200 meters and landed on the seabed. The seabed is full of beautiful corals, which are extremely gorgeous under the blue light of the vast sea protective shield. Of course, this is only what they saw from the inside of the vast sea protective shield. From the outside, it is still pitch black. Yun Feng smiled and said, "It seems that my new method should be feasible. Let's go out." Go out? The women looked at him in surprise, and for a while they couldn't accept the meaning of his words. Yun Feng smiled and said, "Of course we go out. Since this vast sea protective shield has the ability to avoid water and is not afraid of water pressure, then although we can't activate the Long Yuan boat, can't we walk over? Besides, don't you like to watch the scene on the seabed? Today, my husband will take you to experience it." Shui Binger widened her eyes. Walk over from the bottom of the sea? This is also possible, according to inertial thinking. This is the sea, and it is in the deep sea. How can they survive? But after thinking carefully about Yun Feng's words, it is indeed feasible. Yun Feng smiled and said, "Why not? Isn't it interesting to walk on the seabed? Not to mention that we have the invisibility effect of the vast sea shield. Even if we are not invisible, those demon soul great white sharks will not come to the seabed to trouble us. Besides, even if they really come, we will eat shark meat." As he spoke, Yun Feng opened the cabin of the Dragon Abyss boat and was the first to jump out, until they walked out of the cabin, standing on the slippery and even soft corals on the seabed. The girls still couldn't believe that what they saw was real. Chapter 463 I'll do whatever you say. Although their vision could not be very far, they also cultivated their mental strength. This dimly lit place was indeed the depths of the sea. When they first walked out of the Long Yuan boat, the women were a little scared, but when they were able to breathe smoothly here and were not contaminated by a trace of seawater, the women gradually calmed down. At this time Shui Binger said thoughtfully again, "Husband, since this vast sea protective shield can make us invisible in the sea, then if we use it to become invisible while flying in the air, can't we easily reach the sea god island?" Yun Feng shook his head and said, "No, I have tried it before. If I fly with the vast sea protective shield covered, The vast sea protective shield will quickly devour my soul power. I don't know why, maybe it's because of the speed. That time, I only flew for a while, and the vast sea protective shield devoured nearly 1/5 of my soul power. Just in case, it is better to save some soul power. Even if I drive it on land, it will consume a lot of my soul power. Generally speaking, this skill is most suitable for guarding on the spot. Then the girls looked at Douluo again, but Douluo just smiled and said, I can't help you this time. My identity is not suitable to be exposed. After everyone thought about it, they were right. After all, now we are all people who know each other well. This is the territory of God, who knows what problems will be caused by being exposed. Although the aura is hidden, but it does not mean that you can dance in front of other people's doorsteps and others will not observe you. So Douluo is just Yunfeng's worry about encountering some inevitable crisis, and she is used as a guarantee. Then can your soul power last until it takes us to the Sea God Island? You know, this is the sea. If we can't hold on when we are halfway there, even if there's a dragon abyss boat, I'm afraid we will be finished. Because at that time we will be in the sea area of the demon soul great white shark. The girls asked curiously, knowing that some of them still have children in their bodies. Yunfeng looked at the blue light emitted by the hand-high protective shield. Before I dived into the sea, I was not sure. According to my calculations, with your help, it should be no problem to walk over. Now I can tell you for sure that we can easily reach the Sea God Island, because in the depths of the sea, for some reason, the vast sea universe cover absorbs energy from the sea, and my own consumption will be greatly reduced. There is no problem in taking us to the Sea God Island. Juzukin said, so, this vast sea universe cover should be a soul guide suitable for use in the sea? Yunfeng thought about it and said, it is very likely. Without further ado, let's reach the Sea God Island first and then talk about other things. Don't walk too fast, everyone, gather together. After taking back the Long Yuan boat, he activated the vast sea body shield and walked forward on the seabed. It is much more difficult to travel on the seabed than on land. The seabed is uneven, and even gives people a feeling of undulating mountains. Fortunately, everyone is strong. Even if they encounter a very difficult place to walk, they can move forward quickly as if walking on flat ground. When diving, Yunfeng had already seen the direction. This Poseidon Island is a fairly large island. Its area is more than 4 times that of the Purple Pearl Island. As long as they have the right direction, they will definitely be able to reach the island. Gradually, everyone felt that the terrain on the seabed was gradually rising. They knew that after several hardships, they were finally going to set foot on the destination of this trip. Just as the surrounding light became brighter as they gradually approached the sea surface, Yunfeng, who was walking in the front, suddenly stopped and whispered, "Hold your breath." The girls also stopped at the same time. Just as they held their breath as Yunfeng said, a huge white shadow had quietly passed by about 20 meters in front of them. Like a ghost in the sea, it disappeared in the blink of an eye. It was a white shark with a body size of more than 10 meters. Its whole body showed a perfect streamline shape. Its white skin had a layer of light luster. It was extremely fast. Wherever it passed, the sea seemed to ripple strangely. The 5 words "Demon Soul Great White Shark" rang in everyone's mind almost at the same time. Their luck was obviously not good. The Demon Soul Great White Shark did not go out hunting, but thanks to the protection of the invisibility effect of the vast sea body shield, they did not really have a conflict with this powerful soul beast in the sea. It's not that they can't beat them, but they just don't want to cause more trouble. Even if Yunfeng faces a tribe alone, it is still a bit difficult to deal with in the sea. Moving forward again, Yunfeng deliberately quickened his pace. This is the sea, and he can't tell the extent of the magical vast sea universe cover's invisibility effect. The sooner they leave the sea, the safer they will be. Finally, the ground under their feet gradually turned into gravel, and the surrounding vision was bright. Everyone walked out of the sea step by step. When the moment of seeing the light again came, including Yunfeng, everyone couldn't help but cheer. Most of these girls can't swim, but they successfully crossed the sea and came to the destination of their trip, Sea God Island. Perhaps it was because the scenery along the way was too beautiful that they felt particularly accomplished at this moment. Everyone looked at each other and saw excited smiles on each other's faces. Yun Feng was the calmest. When he stepped on the Sea God Island, he immediately felt the difference here. Let's not talk about the scenery. The first thing he felt was the temperature. Logically speaking, it was winter now. Even with the influence of the ocean climate, the temperature on the island in the sea was higher than that on the inland, but it was definitely cold. However, when they stepped on the Sea God Island, the first feeling was warmth, like the warmth of spring. Looking around, the Sea God Island was full of green. This huge island gave them the feeling that they were back on the mainland. At first glance, there was no edge at all. There were all kinds of plants growing on the island, many of which they couldn't name. The air was filled with the breath of the sea, fresh, warm, and refreshing. There was a faint cry and whisper of the sea in the wind. Under the sunlight, the white and delicate sand on the beach, like small crystals, would glow silver. When they first arrived here, the first thing they felt was the tranquility. The sea and the sky were one color, and the seagulls were flying. The sky was blue, high, blue, pure, and blue. Transparent, just like the sea, indescribably moving. Looking at this stunning scenery, the excitement in everyone's eyes was gradually replaced by intoxication. Yun Feng gently hugged the girls in his arms and said, "Everyone, this place is really beautiful. After we finish what we must do, we will come here to spend the rest of our lives, okay?" Looking at Yun Feng's current state, the girls' eyes were filled with a hint of joy. All up to you. Chapter 464. What is the little sea god in front of her? In front of Yun Feng, it seemed as if the whole family had appeared happily on the blue sea and silver beach. They were about to face the challenge of Poseidon Island. After a short period of excitement, everyone took a break to replenish their physical strength and recover the little soul power they had consumed before. Soon, Yun Feng hugged the women tightly and opened his eyes, looking at his wives. What he saw was a series of firm eyes. For them, everything they had experienced before was just a prelude. At this moment, they really started the experience of Poseidon Island. They didn't want to drag their husbands down in the future, and they didn't want to be a vase. Yun Feng's eyes lit up, and the vast sea cover that had been protecting them had quietly returned to the depths of his eyebrows. From the outside, the 10 of them seemed to appear on the beach out of thin air, and their bodies were revealed as the vast sea cover was retracted. There was no need to say it in words, and the tacit understanding was formed naturally. Yun Feng walked in the front, and Gu Dubuina was the last. On both sides were Zhu Xian and Zhu Zuqing, Shui Binger, Zi Zhenzu with Ziu, Ning Rong and Huao, and Zhu Guyan in the middle. The 10 people were full of visions for the future at this time. They walked on the soft beach and headed towards the depths of the Sea God Island. After so many twists and turns to get here, they were ready to face any test. It was not just courage, but also a kind of belief. The refreshing and moist air was intoxicating, but at this time everyone's spirit was highly concentrated. Just as Yun Feng was about to lead the way, a slightly surprised voice came from the forest in front. "Who is it?" With a low shout, 7 or 8 figures suddenly jumped out of the woods and blocked everyone's way. These people looked different, but they had one thing in common. That was the clothes they were wearing, which were similar to the costumes of Jin Fu, light yellow. The oldest was about 40 years old, and the younger ones were about the same age as Yun Feng and his friends. There were 8 people in total, lined up in a row, blocking Yun Feng and others in front of the woods. Yun Feng had heard from Jixiang about the colors of the clothes worn by the Soul Masters on Sea God Island. The Sea Soul Masters on Sea God Island were divided into different levels according to the colors of their clothes, but this was not the level of soul power. It was the difficulty of the test they had taken on Sea God. The more difficult the test was, the higher their status on Sea God Island would be. The colors of their clothes also changed accordingly. From low to high, they were arranged according to the colors of their soul rings. The Sea Soul Masters in yellow clothes were obviously only the second level above the Soul Masters in white clothes. Above them were purple clothes, black clothes, and red clothes. According to Jixiang, on Sea God Island, the only one who was qualified to wear red clothes was the Great Priest. That was the strongest person on Sea God Island, the one who possessed the Sea God martial spirit. Jixiang had lived on Sea God Island for more than 10 years, and had never seen the legendary great priest. 10-8. But the eyes of these 8 people looking at Yun Feng and the others were full of surprise. They couldn't figure out why someone suddenly appeared here. Stopping, Yun Feng said loudly, "We admire the reputation of Sea God Island, and hope to pass the test and join Sea God Island." The 8 people on the opposite side were led by the oldest middle-aged man. After looking Yun Feng up and down, he frowned and said, "You are land spirit masters?" Yun Feng was stunned for a moment. "You can see that?" The middle-aged man said coldly, "Of course you can't feel it, but we sea spirit masters can see it. Leave here quickly. Sea God Island does not welcome you, although I don't know how you got to our Sea God Island. Leave the way you came, otherwise, don't blame us for being rude." Huo Wu, who was originally a hot-tempered person, came to Yun Feng's side, frowned and said, "Can't you join Sea God Island by passing the test? Why do you keep people away?" The middle-aged man snorted coldly. "It seems that you have some understanding of Sea God Island. I let you leave for your own good. Land spirit masters also want to pass the test to join our Sea God Island, but this is impossible. The test of Lord Sea God on land spirit masters is not something you can pass. If you don't want to die, go. It's good for young people to have courage, but if you are just reckless, you will ruin your life." Yun Feng and Huo Wu looked at each other. They couldn't help but feel a little good about the middle-aged man. Yun Feng smiled and said, "Senior, since we are here, we will not leave easily, no matter what kind of test it is. We hope to try it." "You are right. Recklessness will ruin one's life, but if we lose courage, we are not worthy of being a spirit master." Yun Feng said the last sentence in a decisive manner, with a few shocks of spiritual power in his voice. Except for the middle-aged man who was talking to them, the other 7 sea spirit masters subconsciously took 2 steps back. Seeing the bright light in Yun Feng's eyes, he was even more surprised. The middle-aged man frowned. "I'll give you one more chance. Leave or accept the test from Lord Poseidon. I want to remind you that once you accept the test, there is no possibility of quitting halfway, even if you die because of it. It seems that your cultivation should be good. However, Lord Poseidon's test has no absolute relationship with cultivation. It may be as simple as asking you to pick up a handful of sand, or it may be as difficult as asking you to challenge a 100,000-year soul beast. Have you really thought about it?" Except for Guduina, Yun Feng and others said almost in unison, "Yes, we want to accept the test." Originally, they came to get the wool. If they went back without even entering the door, it would be too against the rules. The middle-aged man looked at them deeply and whispered a few words to a young yellow-clothed sea soul master beside him. The way he spoke was very strange. It seemed to be a strange sound wave humming, so Yun Feng and others could not hear any sound at all. The young yellow-clothed sea soul master agreed respectfully and turned away quickly. The middle-aged man then said to Yun Feng and the others, "I hope you won't regret it. Follow me." As he said that, he led the yellow-clothed sea soul masters and turned to walk into the woods. Yun Feng and the others immediately changed back to the previous formation and followed the yellow-clothed sea soul masters. Except for Yun Feng and Guduina, they all walked into the woods under high vigilance. Who knows when the test will start? They have already set foot on the Sea God Island. No matter what the situation is, they must always be vigilant. Yun Feng knows the process here, and Guduina is not afraid at all, let alone becoming a god. What is a little sea god in front of her? She was a dragon god before, although now she is split in half. If the air on the beach is moist and pure, then the air in the woods is full of the freshness of nature. The air here is even more wonderful to breathe than in the starred great forest. The women's vigilance seems to be unnecessary, and they walked in this dense woods. They did not encounter any problems. Chapter 465. Because he was afraid of blaspheming the god of the sea. After entering the woods, Yun Feng immediately felt as if there was an invisible force protecting the woods. The middle-aged man walking in front suddenly stopped, turned around, and looked at Yun Feng with burning eyes. "Don't try to explore anything with your mental power. This is Sea God Island. Everything here is blessed by Lord Sea God." Yun Feng understood that this was just a yellow-clothed sea soul master on Sea God Island. He could actually feel his mental power detection? Or is there some special energy here that allows him to feel the mental power he releases? The middle-aged man led them to continue walking forward. Not long after, they passed through the woods, and the scene in front of them immediately surprised Yan Feng and others. Jixian did not tell Yan Feng too much about the situation of Sea God Island, but simply talked about Sea Soul Masters, because he was afraid of blaspheming Sea God. At this time, what appeared in front of Yan Feng and others was actually a pool of water, like a pool in the sea. The most bizarre thing was that this inland pool, which should have been extremely calm, was actually as turbulent as the sea, without wind. The pond was surrounded by dense forests. It looked like it was about 500 meters in diameter. In the middle of the pond, there was a triangular platform with a strange stone pillar standing on it. The stone pillar was shaped like a pointed cone, with a special sculpture carved on the top. The entire pillar was engraved with countless complex patterns. It seemed to be a kind of text. Invisible and strange energy was emanating from this strange pillar. Through the purple demon eye, Yan Feng could clearly see that there was a person sitting under the stone pillar, with his eyes closed and his back to the stone pillar, as if he was meditating and practicing. The clothes on this person were black. Coming here, the middle-aged soul master in yellow seemed much more restrained, and those young soul masters in yellow also stood aside respectfully, not even daring to breathe. Welcome to the sea in the sea, the Seahorse Holy Pillar, the middle-aged man in yellow said in a special tone. The Seahorse Holy Pillar is one of the 7 holy pillars of the Sea God Island. The Sea God has endowed the 7 holy pillars with divine power. Through the 7 holy pillars, the will of God is spread. Any holy pillar can test foreign soul masters. You will get the test questions from the Sea God here. After saying this, he turned to the triangular platform of the sea in the sea, bowed 90 degrees and saluted respectfully. Under the urging of soul power, he transmitted his voice. At this moment, the middle-aged man almost subconsciously released his martial soul. 2 yellow, 3 purple, and 1 black. A very good soul ring ratio appeared on him. This middle-aged man was actually a soul emperor above level 60. But the yellow-clothed man was already a soul emperor? This more or less surprised the girls. Report to Lord Seahorse. There are foreign land spirit masters coming to accept the test. Please allow it. Under the urging of spirit power, the voice of the middle-aged man in yellow was transmitted like a straight line, covering the surging waves in the sea. The man in black sitting under the Seahorse Holy Pillar on the triangular platform suddenly opened his eyes. The distance from where he sat to the shore was more than 200 meters, but the moment he opened his eyes, the man in yellow couldn't help but shudder. Yan Feng and Gu Dubuina were fine, but the women around them were a little affected. Those 2 resentful eyes were like 2 deep pools. Even though they were so far away, each of them felt the power of the man in black. Titled Buo, the 4 words representing the strongest title in the Spirit Master world, rang in the minds of the women. When they saw the eyes of the man in black, they made a judgment. That's right, that was the special aura that only titled Buo could have. This man in black was also the first titled Buo level Sea Spirit Master they had met since they came to the sea. A sonorous and powerful voice sounded. Unlike the man in yellow, this voice did not come in a straight line, but seemed to be mixed with the sound of the waves of the sea. Land Spirit Masters want to accept the test of His Majesty the Sea God? You can only be qualified to accept the test if you pass through the sea in the sea and come to the Seahorse Holy Pillar. As he spoke, a blue halo lit up behind Seahorse Buo, and then the Seahorse Holy Pillar behind him suddenly lit up, and a blue light went from the bottom to the top of the Seahorse Holy Pillar, with the top of the Seahorse Holy Pillar as the center. A circle of blue ripples suddenly surged, like a layer of light curtain across the sea in the sea. Since the Seahorse Holy Pillar is about 10 meters high, this layer of light curtain suspended above the sea in the sea is also 10 meters high. Needless to say, this 10-meter distance limits the flying ability and forward space. Huo frowned slightly and looked at the middle-aged man in yellow who led them here. Do we have to accept the test of a title Buo before accepting the test of the Sea God? Do you think we can compete with the title Buo? In fact, Yan Feng really wanted to say that he could do it, but at this time he would not be so unemotional as to point out Huo Wu's doubts. The middle-aged man in yellow stood with his head bowed, The test for land soul masters is different from that for sea soul masters. I don't know how Lord Seahorse will test you, but I can be sure that everything Lord Seahorse does must be in accordance with the will of Lord Sea God. You still have a chance to leave now. Looking at the calm look of the middle-aged man in yellow, Huo Wu and others immediately understood that the first test after arriving at Sea God Island had arrived. When Huo Wu was trying to land, Shui Binger took the lead and stood in front of Huo Wu. Let me try first. Although I am not a water-attributed soul master, I am also ice, which is better than you, who is fire. Huo Wu knew that Shui Binger wanted to explore the way for herself and others, and after thinking about it, she agreed. In fact, this is completely nothing. Shui Binger and Yun Feng looked at each other. Shui Binger nodded slightly to him and came to the coast and the sea, stepping on the fine sand that was also shining with silver light. He tried first. Even if he failed, Yun Feng was always there to rescue and respond. If Yun Feng failed, the situation would be much more passive. Therefore, Shui Binger was the first to stand up. Shui Binger clenched her fists and slowly raised them from the front of her body to the top of her head. Her head also raised at the same time. The eyes of those yellow-clothed sea soul masters fell on her unconsciously. They all clearly felt that an extremely powerful frost power was constantly gathering. Liao, a monstrous cry suddenly sounded from Shui Binger's mouth. She clenched her fists and suddenly retracted them. A strong white light rose around her body like ice, and she also released her own 6 soul rings in an instant. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 466, Thousands of Miles of Ice. A huge phoenix phantom of ice crystal appeared behind Shui Binger, and the incomparable coldness spread out like a firework that exploded in an instant. The cold air under his feet spread out in waves. The terrifying domineering and the demeanor of the king of birds moved even the seahorse Duo, who was more than 200 meters away. With a wave of his right hand, the waves in front of him suddenly rolled up, and the height of the waves reached 10 meters, which seemed to block all the ways forward. The sea water, like a natural moat, rumbled like a drop of water, but it did not overflow the scope of the sea in the sea. Facing this scene, Shui Binger did not have the slightest fear. The second soul ring on her body suddenly lit up, and she used her 1000-year soul ring skill, the ice ring armor. The ice armor spread on her body, the crystal blue, like the sky, and the armor that reflected the light was shining at this moment. Shui Binger looked at the waves in front of her, smiled, and moved directly. The red lips spit out 10,000 miles of ice. The 6th soul ring flashed, and the waves were directly frozen at this moment. Even a long ice crystal bridge was built, and Shui Binger walked over step by step. The yellow-clothed sea soul masters beside her were stunned. What kind of operation is this? After seeing this scene, the seahorse Duo on the seahorse holy pillar showed a smile at the corner of his mouth. Yun Feng naturally saw the change in the expression of the seahorse Duo, but he was not very worried about whether Shui Binger could pass the test. Sure enough, at this moment, suddenly, accompanied by Roar, a huge seahorse about 5 meters long suddenly flew out of the ice wall. Its body flipped in the air, and blue light overflowed. One after another, huge seahorses rolled out of the ice wall. Obviously, these are sea soul beasts in the sea. It seems that they have the strength of a 1000-year soul beast. All the seahorses that broke through the ice seemed to be stunned by the shock, but there was no damage to their bodies. Not long after, just 5 meters away from the platform of the seahorse holy pillar, the ice crystals suddenly rolled back. These sea soul beasts were created by seahorse Duo before, but Shui Binger saw through them for some reason. Then she used her extremely strong control ability to throw them all onto the ice wall. Steadily, she used the ice to walk in front of Seahorse Duo. Seahorse Duo showed some praise in his eyes and nodded to Shui Binger. You have a king of birds martial spirit and have broken through my test with 2 soul skills. Among land soul masters, you are also a master of the soul emperor level. What's more rare is that you are so young. No wonder you have the confidence to come here. Well, You are also a martial spirit that specializes in ice elements. You are qualified to accept the test of Lord Poseidon. Thank you. Shui Binger's answer was just two simple words. After that, she stood aside and looked at the others on the shore. His eyes were full of smiles. Seeing Shui Binger's smile, she was not smiling because she had passed the test, but because the test was very simple and she believed that her sisters could pass it. However, the praise in Seahorse Duo's eyes was not because of Shui Binger's strength, but because she did not kill a seahorse soul beast. After seeing Shui Binger's gaze, Yun Feng also understood what Shui Binger meant and immediately said, "Going to the Seahorse Holy Pillar is not a test for us from Seahorse Duo. Binger told us that it is not very difficult. In this sea, there are only seahorses with the strength just now, and no stronger sea soul beasts exist. Zuking, you wait for the second one." Okay. Zhu Zuking agreed. She did not have the ability of Shui Binger. When her body flew into the air, she released her martial soul. The first soul skill, Netherworld Stab, was launched in midair. Her body suddenly accelerated in the air and rushed straight to the waves in front. Compared with Shui Binger, her speed was much faster. She moved forward effortlessly like a ghost. In a flash, she had already soared to a height of 10 meters. When she was only about half a meter away from the light curtain emitted by the Seahorse Holy Pillar, she actually changed direction in midair and rushed straight to the Seahorse Holy Pillar. The fierce waves would naturally not let her go, and rushed towards Zhu Zuking's body in the turbulent waves. Zhu Zuking's way of facing the waves was completely different from Shui Binger. She was seen shining with purple light, and her third soul skill was also shining brightly. A black shadow seemed to spread from her body and silently slashed the waves in front of her. It was Zhu Zuking's third soul skill, the Nether Slash. The fierce sea water swept past her body on both sides just before it hit her body, and the Nether Slash directly opened up the waves in front of her. At this time, Zhu Zuking had already rushed forward for nearly 30 meters. Of course, she would not choose like Shui Binger. She had no place to borrow strength, but as a spirit master of the agility attack system, she had her own way. Seeing that his body was about to fall into the waves, Nether Slash appeared again, but this time it did not split the waves in front. Instead, it strangely cut out a triangle. Just when his own momentum was about to run out, his toes touched the waves cut by his Nether Slash, and the first soul ring skill Nether Stab was activated again. He rushed forward again. Although the buoyancy of seawater is greater than that of fresh water, how much can it be? But this small buoyancy is enough to support Zhu Zuking's body forward. Nether Slash opened the way, and Nether Stab accelerated. The two skills were used together, which played an excellent effect in the passage of the waves. In a moment, after about 10 accelerations, Zhu Zuking finally broke through the shackles of the waves, stretched out his body, and landed quietly beside Shui Binger without a trace of water stains on his body. Without blushing or panting, he took back his martial soul. He nodded to Seahorse Duo. A faint smile appeared on Seahorse Duo's originally tense face. "Very good. I can describe your performance as stunning. A quick attack system combat soul master, a cat-type martial soul. Speed and attack are equally important. You are also very strong, even better than her. You look younger than her, a 6-ring soul emperor. It seems that I do not know enough about land soul masters. You are also qualified to accept the test of the sea god." Zhu Zuking bowed to the Seahorse Duo again and walked to Shui Binger's side, standing there quietly. In their eyes, there was no worry at all, because they believed in the strength of their sisters. On the shore, Huo Wu, "Wrong, it's up to you next." Huo Wu smiled and said directly to Ning Rong, "How about I take you over?" Ning Rong nodded. It was not easy for him to go over, and now someone wanted to take her over, which was naturally very good. Okay. Huo Wu did not hesitate after seeing this, and directly summoned her own martial spirit. A huge fire shadow immediately appeared behind Huo Wu, and then under Huo Wu's control, the huge fire shadow directly held Huo Wu and Ning Rong's bodies in each hand, and stepped across the sea step by step, walking towards the place where Seahorse Duo was. Chapter 467. You are awesome. You are so powerful. Fire attribute is not a good choice in such a place, especially in the sea water under the control of tidal Duo. which is even more powerful. Huo Ying is in the sea water, constantly emitting steam. When seeing this scene, Huo Wu also felt a little difficult. But don't forget that Huo Wu is not the only one who stepped into the sea at this time. The gorgeous and dazzling brilliance shines behind Huo Wu, and the 9 treasures glazed tower appears on Ningrong-Arong's palm. The first 3 layers of the pagoda shine at the same time. Ningrong-Arong's first soul skill power increase, second soul skill agility increase, and third soul skill soul power increase fall on Huo Wu at the same time. Under Ningrong-Arong's increase, the speed of the Huo Ying suddenly became much faster, and the resistance was much less. When they came to the Seahorse Holy Pillar, the time they took was even shorter than Zhuzuking. Seeing that the 6 soul rings on Huo Wu and Ningrong-Arong, which were also the best soul ring configuration, gradually disappeared, Seahorse Buo slowly stood up, and he first looked at Ningrong-Arong. Is your martial soul the 7 treasures glazed pagoda? Although he was in the sea, he still knew the 7 major sects of land spirit masters. Ningrong-Arong smiled slightly, and said in a neither humble nor arrogant manner, it should be the 9 treasures glazed pagoda. But I am indeed from the 7 treasures glazed pagoda sect. 9 treasures glazed pagoda. A thoughtful light flashed in Seahorse Buo's eyes. Okay, a good 9 treasures glazed pagoda. Turning to Huo Wu, the Seahorse Buo's eyes seemed a little hesitant. It's hard to imagine that I can't even see what your martial arts are. Can a fire-attributed martial soul achieve this in a place like this? So what is your martial arts? Huo Wu smiled and said, if I tell you what my martial soul is, can the test of the sea god be easier? Seahorse Buo smiled indifferently and said, that's not something I can decide. Huo Wu looked at the burning eyes of the titled Buo level sea spirit master and said, my martial soul is the fire shadow. To be precise, it is an extended martial soul of the body. Seahorse Buo was stunned for a moment. His feeling at this moment was a bit like the opponents who looked at Yun Feng and others when they participated in the elite competition of Advanced Soul Masters Academy of the All-Continent. Shui Binger, the first one to come to the Seahorse Holy Pillar, actually gave the Seahorse Buo a great shock, but the next 3 people were equally amazing. What surprised him most was the pair of girls who had just arrived here. A control-type soul master with fire attributes, whose martial soul was very strange, and an auxiliary-type soul master, who could actually pass the test of the waves and steadily climb onto the Seahorse Holy Pillar. What was particularly critical was that these soul masters from the Duo continent were so young, and they all looked like they were only in their early 20s. But the 4 in front of him were all soul emperors with the best soul ring ratio. Through these 4 people, Seahorse Buo had already clearly realized what kind of combination these land soul masters who came this time were. In time, the future of these young people can only be described as limitless. Are all of the geniuses on the mainland so worthless now? Are they flooded? After so long of hard training on the Sea God Island, it is still not as good as the mainland. He couldn't figure it out. The next person to come on stage was Purple Pearl. She had lived in the sea since she was a child, so she knew the nature of water very well. It was easy for her to pass the test. After all, she was originally a sea soul master. The remaining 5 people looked at each other, and Yun Feng didn't want to wait any longer. He directly summoned the Moon Shadow Sword, activated his soul skills, and activated the sword control technique. He directly carried the women, and the waves were like nothing. He passed through them with ease. Seahorse Buo was stunned. This wave is no joke. It's okay to lead people across, but the difficulty will double for each additional person. But the leading young man actually passed through like this. Seahorse Buo even wondered if there was something wrong with the difficulty he set. Strange. It's really too strange. Until Yun Feng and others came in front of him. Seahorse Buo quickly thought of something, looked up and down at Yun Feng, and Seahorse Buo's eyes suddenly became cold. Stand in the order of the state talents to come on stage. As he spoke, he pressed his hands in the air, and everyone felt a surge of energy quietly dissipate, and the turbulent sea water suddenly calmed down. The light curtain emanating from the top of the Seahorse Holy Pillar also faded away quietly. Seeing the cold eyes of Seahorse Buo, Yun Feng was a little puzzled. When he looked at the other women, everyone also showed a bit of confusion. Only Zhu Xian's eyes suddenly flashed. as if she thought of something, and said to Seahorse Duo, Senior, there is one thing I think I should make clear first. We are not from the spirit hall. You should have seen that Wrong's spirit is the 9 treasures glazed pagoda. She was born in the 7 treasures glazed sect. Zukin and I were born in the royal family of the Xingyuo Empire. Shui Binger and Shui Duo are from Dan Shui College. As for Huo Wu, she is from Chiyuo College. The others are considered free spirit masters. When she talked about each person, she pointed her finger at that person. And Yun Feng is from the Tandu Empire. Yun Feng was the first to wake up after hearing what Zhu Xiaoyun said. As land-based spirit masters, and since they all showed such strength at such a young age, it would be easy for this Seahorse Duo to regard one party as coming from the Spirit Hall. And the Spirit Hall had attacked Poseidon Island before, so naturally the Seahorse Duo would not have a good impression. Zhu Xiaoyun explained their origins at the critical moment, which just happened to deny Seahorse Duo's guess. It's not that Yun Feng's thinking ability is not as good as Zhu Xiaoyun's, but having lived in that place of intrigue since childhood, it is inevitable that she would think a little more than others. She had clearly seen Seahorse Duo's relatively gentle attitude towards everyone. As the last one to go on stage, Yun Feng's sight was mostly blocked by the waves before, so naturally he couldn't see the movements here clearly, and could only vaguely see the scene when everyone went on stage. Sure enough, with Zhu Xiaoyun's explanation, Seahorse Duo's expression eased, and he asked casually, since you're from different backgrounds, even from all over the world, why can you gather together? Yun Feng smiled and said, because they are all my wives. I met some of them when I was in school, and some of them when I was traveling. After hearing Yun Feng's words, Seahorse Duo looked at Yun Feng with an extremely strange look. You are so awesome, kid. Yun Feng smiled and didn't say anything. Seahorse Duo didn't continue to dwell on this topic. His deep eyes like the ocean swept over everyone. So, your purpose of coming to Sea God Island is not just as simple as hoping to join Sea God Island. Chapter 468. They don't want to be vases. Everyone's heart trembled, and they subconsciously focused their eyes on Yun Feng. After a few simple conversations, they clarified the relationship between themselves and the Spirit Hall. But the purpose of this trip still aroused the suspicion of the Seahorse Duo in front of him. Yun Feng smiled and said frankly, for the sake of experience, we are here, Senior, let's start the test of the Sea God on us. If we can pass the test, it will not be too late for you to delve into the purpose of our trip. The subtext of his words is that if we pass the test, it will not be too late for you to doubt our purpose. If you fail the test, you will be expelled from the island directly, and it is impossible to have any purpose. Avoiding the important and focusing on the trivial, it can be regarded as resolving the doubts of Seahorse Duo. Seahorse Duo slowly walked to the front of the Seahorse Holy Pillar, facing the Holy Pillar, with a pious light in his eyes. One person came forward. Yun Feng and Huliina were fine, but the other girls were worried. They knew that the real test was coming, and this was what they were looking forward to. Isn't this trip to Poseidon Island an opportunity to improve their strength under pressure? They don't want to be a vase. Needless to say, the first one to step forward was still Shui Binger. As a woman who was soft on the outside and strong on the inside, she not only had her husband but also her sister here, so she wanted to try it first and stand in front of Seahorse Duo. Seahorse Duo slowly raised his hands, his face full of piety, and raised his hands to his chest, with his palms half a foot apart. A faint blue light slowly appeared in the middle of his palms. As the blue light gradually increased, Yun Feng suddenly had a special feeling that this blue light seemed familiar. Isn't this the same power emitted by the previous vast sea universe cover? Sure enough, this Seahorse Duo also inherited the power of the sea god. When the blue light filled the palms of Seahorse Duo's hands, the light suddenly bloomed, making the entire Seahorse Holy Pillar shrouded in a clear blue light. Then, a flash of light flashed below the Seahorse Holy Pillar, and a blue light spread up along the lines on the Holy Pillar. It rose to the top in almost the blink of an eye. Seahorse Duo turned around, facing Shui Binger. He pointed his right hand at Shui Binger's body. A blue light column descended from the sky, covering Shui Binger's body. Shui Binger, who was bathed in the light column, was a little dazed, and obviously didn't feel anything. The color of the light column began to change, from blue to white. Then, it quickly changed from white to yellow, and almost without a pause, it turned into purple. The purple gradually deepened. This time the speed of the change was slower, but it continued to change. Seeing the changes in the light on Shui Binger, Seahorse Duo seemed a little surprised. Not long after, the purple light had completely turned black, almost completely covering Shui Binger's body under the light column. On the Seahorse Holy Pillar behind Seahorse Duo, the lowest lines also began to turn black, and gradually climbed upwards. Yun Feng and the others did not notice that the yellow-clothed Sea Soul Masters who had brought them here before saw the changes in the Seahorse Holy Pillar, and their faces were full of horror, especially the middle-aged Soul Master, who even showed a bit of pity. With a sigh, he said to himself, they were not allowed to come to accept the test, but they had to come. The test of the Land Master by the Sea God is really. The black light pattern climbed to nearly 1/3 of the Seahorse Holy Pillar before pausing, but soon, it continued to spread upwards, this time at a faster speed. After a while, the black light pattern had spread all over the Seahorse Holy Pillar. Then, a total of 6 black lights shot out and appeared in front of Shui Binger at the same time, turning into 6 square light screens. On each layer of the light screen, some special golden words flashed. Among them, the words on the first light screen were shining brightly, while the words on the other 5 light screens were relatively dim. The corners of Seahorse Duo's mouth twitched slightly, and he smiled bitterly. 6 black level tests. 2 more than I had at the beginning. Lord Poseidon, is this person a sinner? The 6 light curtains converged and turned into 6 points of black light that sank into Shui Binger's white forehead at the same time. On her forehead, there was a black hexagonal star. Its color was like ink. Shui Binger seemed to feel something, and the confusion in her eyes was replaced by depth. Without saying a word, she quickly stepped back a few steps, sat cross-legged on the ground, closed her eyes, frowned slightly, and seemed to be thinking about something. The black light of the Seahorse Holy Pillar gradually faded, and everything returned to normal. But the look in Seahorse Duo's eyes when he looked at Shui Binger was a little complicated. If understood from Yun Feng's perspective, this Seahorse Duo was like looking at a dead person. Shui Duo was naturally worried about her sister, so she couldn't help asking, "Senior, what is the black level 6 tests? Can you explain it to us?" Seahorse Duo nodded slowly. The tests given by Lord Poseidon are divided into levels. Different levels have different difficulties, just like the colors of soul rings. From low to high, they are white level assessment, yellow level assessment, purple level assessment, black level assessment and red top level assessment. Lord Poseidon will conduct different assessments for different people, and the content of the assessment is in the light curtain that just appeared. Only the assessee and the examiner can know that I am your examiner. By passing different levels of assessments, you will also get corresponding power on Poseidon Island. The assessment will not only be based on the assessee's strength, but also on potential. This is the will of Lord Poseidon. Among them, there will be only one test for the white level assessment and the yellow level assessment. If you pass it, you will be considered successful. When it comes to the purple level assessment, there will be a distinction. There will be 1 to 3 tests for the purple level assessment. That is to say, if the light from the Holy Pillar appears in front of you as a single ray, then you will have to go through a purple level test. If there are 3 rays, then you will have to go through 3 tests to pass. The more tests you have, the more difficult it will be, the higher the authority you will get after passing them. When it comes to the black level assessment, there will be at least 4 tests, and at most 6. That is what I just said about the 6 black level tests. The 6 black level tests can be said to be the most difficult of the black level assessments. What I can tell you is that in the past 100 years, the black level assessment has appeared a total of 31 times, of which 7 passed and 24 failed. I am one of the 7 who passed. The 7 people who passed are now the guardians of the 7 holy pillars of Sea God Island. Among the 7 of us, only the guardian of the Sea Dragon Holy Pillar, Sea Dragon Luo, has passed the 6 black level tests. He is also the strongest among us, and his soul power has now broken through level 95. Seahorse Duo's explanation was very detailed, but his purpose was only one. which was to tell these young people in front of him how difficult the 6 black level tests were. If you pass them, you will have the same authority as the guardian of the Holy Pillar. If they failed, there would be only one result, death. Except for Yun Feng and Gu Duoina, who were very confident, the other women looked at each other in bewilderment, and no one could speak for a moment. Chapter 469 Very courageous, Seahorse Duo added, after accepting the test from Lord Poseidon, then you must start the black level test immediately. The time limit for you is that you must complete 1 test every year. After completing 1 test, the next test will appear. If you exceed the time limit, or try to escape, then the seal of the sea god previously imprinted on his forehead will burst, obliterating the participant. In the black level assessment, there are never losers, only passers and dead. So, it is also known as heaven and hell. I did not expect that Lord Poseidon's assessment of you land spirit masters would be so difficult. It's not too late for you to regret, otherwise, once the black level assessment appears again, you will be the same as him. Since you are not from the spirit hall, I can tell you frankly that with his strength of more than level 60, there is no possibility for him to pass the 6 black level tests. He will definitely die. After listening to Seahorse Duo's explanation, Yun Feng suddenly said, wait a minute, Senior, you said Binger had no chance of passing the test and would definitely die. Then, how did you pass the test? As far as I know, people on Sea God Island must take the test at the age of 18. Were you stronger than Binger now when you were 18? Seahorse Duo shook his head and said, when I was 18, I had not yet reached level 40, which was much worse than he is now. But there is one thing you must understand. The black level test of our Sea God Island Soul Masters is to complete 1 every 10 years. Despite this, my 4th black level test still made me survive several times. The last test I faced was to persist in a group of demon soul great white sharks other than the island guardian beast for 1 hour. Everyone was quiet, but Seahorse Duo did not see any fear or discouragement on any of their faces. Juzukin came out second and stood where Shui Binger had stood before. Her cold and beautiful face was rippling with a faint smile. Senior, please give me a test from the sea god. Seahorse Duo frowned slightly. Will you not consider it again? Juzukin said calmly. Senior, we came here to accept the test. If the test is too easy, wouldn't we have come here in vain? How can there be motivation without pressure? We have done many impossible things. It's okay to create another miracle. Juzukin told Seahorse Duo their determination with practical actions. Just as she said, they came here to experience. No matter how difficult the experience of the sea god was, they would never back down. Okay, you young people are really motivated. Few people can have such courage as you. The titled Duo said nothing more. The blue light condensed again. In the shining light of the Seahorse Holy Pillar, another light column fell from the sky and enveloped Juzukin. The blue turned into white, and then turned into yellow and purple without stopping. Just as Seahorse Duo expected, the purple gradually deepened and finally turned into black. Seeing the black magic pattern slowly climbing up the Seahorse Holy Pillar, Seahorse Duo couldn't help but take a deep breath. Having experienced the difficulty of the black level test, he certainly didn't believe that these young people could pass the test just by courage, and he felt a little regretful in his heart. But as the examiner, since they insisted on doing so, he couldn't say much. The black pattern continued to rise, but the black light brought by Juzukin didn't rise as high as Shui Binger. It stopped at about the center of the Seahorse Holy Pillar and no longer rushed up. 5 light curtains quietly emerged, except that there was one less light curtain than Shui Binger. The rest of the situation was exactly the same. Juzukin also closed her eyes, and after the black light poured into her forehead, she sat cross-legged and thought quietly. On her forehead, a black 5-pointed star appeared. Black level 5 test. The black level 6 test, second only to Shui Binger, is self-evidently difficult. This seems to be based on a person's innate soul power and potential. Yun Feng was a little confused, because according to reason, Juzukin is no ordinary strong man now. Soon Shui Duo rushed up before Ning Rong and stood in the corresponding position before Seahorse Duo began to pray for the light of the sea god. She asked, Senior, I have a question. These tests are so difficult. If we can pass, what benefits can we get? I mean, in addition to the corresponding rights and interests on the Sea God Island, Seahorse Duo said, obtaining the rights and interests on the Sea God Island is the greatest benefit that can be obtained. If there are any other benefits, then your purpose is to improve your strength faster under pressure. Shui Duo smiled and nodded. Senior, please start. Anyway, they came here for free. No matter what they do, it's not a loss. According to Seahorse Duo's cognition, the young man in front of him came here for the test with the help of others, and subconsciously thought that the test she had to bear must be lower than the previous two. But when the magic pattern roused, Seahorse Duo found that he was wrong. What appeared in front of Shui Duo at last was 5 black light curtains, the same as Juzuking, and the black level 5 tests. The light faded, and a black hexagonal star appeared on Shui Duo's forehead. However, she did not enter into thought like Shui Binger and Juzuking, but opened her eyes excitedly. Very good, I also have 5 tests. Haha. Seahorse Duo was stunned for a moment. Are you happy about the black level 6 tests? Even he felt that the test given to these young people by Lord Poseidon was too difficult. How could such a little girl have a chance to pass the black level 6 tests? Shui Duo smiled and said, it can be seen that the test given by Lord Poseidon is based on the comprehensive quality of the person being tested. I also have the black level 5 tests, which proves that my potential is the same as Sister Zuking. Isn't this good? Seahorse Duo watched Shui Duo retreat to the side, and couldn't help shaking his head helplessly. He found that he really didn't understand the thoughts of these young people now. Didn't he make it clear? The result of failure is death. Before the thought in his mind faded, Ning Rong had already walked up, muttering something in her mouth, which made Seahorse Duo laugh and cry. Surpass the 6 tests. Surpass the 6 tests. Ning Rong muttered to the Seahorse Holy Pillar and bowed slightly to the Seahorse Holy Pillar. Respected Seagat, you must let me surpass the 6 tests. If you use 4 words to describe Seahorse Duo's current mood, then speechless and choking is the most appropriate. Even if your martial soul is the 9 treasures glazed pagoda, you are just an auxiliary spirit master. Do you have to surpass the black level 6 tests? He gave up talking to Ning Rong and started to test Ning Rong directly. But in fact, it surprised Seahorse Duo again. The light of the sea god crossed the process from white to yellow and from yellow to purple without hesitation. Quickly entered the strange black world. The black magic pattern rose straight up, and under the gaze of Seahorse Duo's eyes that seemed to be about to pop out of their sockets, the black magic pattern slowly exceeded the center of the Seahorse Holy Pillar. This meant that Ning Rong had to endure the difficulty of the 6th black level test. Chapter 470. It's not fair. However, the black magic pattern did not stop, and continued to climb upwards, and soon reached the 2/3 position, which was exactly the position of the 6th black level test. Oh my god, I'm going crazy. There haven't been black level tests for many years, but in just a short while, 4 have appeared. Seahorse Duo sighed in his heart. But at this moment, the magic pattern that seemed to have stopped suddenly surged upwards slightly. Then, the magic pattern that was originally covered on the Seahorse Holy Pillar and rendered in black instantly changed color, completely turning into a beautiful crystal red. A red light also rushed up into the sky and pierced straight into the air. The blood-like light pierced straight into the sky, making the clear blue sky in the sky flash with a bloody light. On the Sea God Island, thousands of eyes were cast into the sky almost at the same time. Among them, 6 black-clothed old men who were also standing in front of stone pillars of different styles saw the red light, and their eyes showed an unstoppable strong light. Almost at the same time, they exclaimed the same words. Top 7 tests. Even in the center of the Sea God Island, in a special temple, a pair of eyes that had been closed for 10 years opened because of the appearance of the red light. A touch of surprise and more joy spread across his face. The body that had not moved for 10 years slowly stood up. The red light gradually faded, and the 7 red light screens sank into Ning Rong's forehead one by one. It turned into a strange red 7-pointed star, which gave her originally extremely white and tender skin a layer of light red luster. Seahorse Duo was completely sluggish, red. That was actually the red that represented the top level. Unlike the high mortality rate of black, This red that represented the top level appeared too rarely. Seahorse Duo woke up at Ning Rongarong's silver bell-like laughter. He saw Ning Rongarong making faces at Shui Duo with a smug look. Shui Duo looked discouraged. It seemed that she was suffering because she had 2 fewer tests than Ning Rongarong and her overall level was lower. Ning Rongarong finally vented her anger. She had never been able to get pregnant before, but now she finally crushed others in this aspect. "Miss, can I ask your full name?" Seahorse Duo bowed slightly and saluted Ning Rongarong. The change in Seahorse Duo's attitude made the women stunned for a moment. At this time, Shui Binger and Zhu Zuqing also opened their eyes. As a titled Duo, he was also guarding the Seahorse Holy Pillar, one of the 7 holy pillars of the sea god. Although this Seahorse Duo was not unruly before, he was also indifferent, cold and arrogant. It was only because of the talents of Yun Feng and others that he was polite to them. But the expression on the face of this titled Duo at this time can be described as respectful. Although this respect was only for Ning Rongarong, it was enough to surprise people. "You know, he is a titled Duo, Senior. My name is Ning Rongarong. What are you doing?" Ning Rongarong said in surprise. Seahorse Duo swallowed his saliva. "It's an honor to be your examiner, although I don't understand why the top-level assessment will appear on you, but in the future, if you have any needs on the island, you can come to me, and I will do my best to help you solve it." Shui Binger blinked and couldn't help but say, "Senior, this gap is too big. There is only one assessment between her and me. Why is the gap so big? Isn't it the difference between the 6th and 7th tests?" Seahorse Duo didn't even look at Shui Binger, and the respect on his face deepened a bit. Unlike the black level assessment, there has never been a record of failure in the top level assessment since it first appeared. The last time the top level assessment appeared was the assessment of the island's great priest. As long as Miss Ning Rongarong passes the top level assessment, she will be the successor of the great priest and will also be the future head of the Sea God Island. After listening to Seahorse Duo's explanation, the women finally understood. They looked at each other, and their eyes looking at Ning Rongarong became weird. Zhu Ziyan pondered for a while and said, "Senior, are the 7 top tests easier than the 6 black tests?" Seahorse Duo shook his head and said, "Of course not. The overall difficulty of the 7 top tests is more than 1 level higher than the 6 black tests. However, every time a top-level test appears, it symbolizes that a powerful soul master who can complete it and inherit the position of worship has appeared. No matter how difficult it is, he will succeed." Ning Rongarong chuckled, looked at the girls, and said, "It doesn't matter, you just follow me in the future. Don't be too jealous of me." Seeing Ning Rongarong's appearance, the other girls were a little unwilling. "It's not fair, it's too unfair. I want the top 7 tests too." Due to Ning Rongarong's change of attitude, Seahorse Duo's attitude towards others has also become much gentler. He said to the women who have not yet accepted this gift, "The light of the sea god can only be bestowed once." Yun Feng smiled and said directly, "Senior, let's continue. Purple Pearl, you go." "Okay." Purple Pearl walked forward without hesitation and stood beside Seahorse Duo. At this time, Seahorse Duo's mood fluctuated several times, but it also fully demonstrated his calmness as a titled Duo. He thought to himself that even if the black level 6 tests appeared again, I would never be surprised. Under the auspices of Seahorse Duo, the light of the sea god descended again. Bathed in the blue light column, the light on Purple Pearl's body changed much slower than that of Shui Binger and the other 4. The blue gradually turned into white, and then from white to yellow very slowly, and then stopped at the purple light. In the flashing, a purple light curtain appeared in front of Purple Pearl. Purple level 3 tests, just purple level 3 tests. The light of the sea god will not lie. Zizenzu felt the purple light entering her body blankly. In her lost mood, she really understood how big the gap was between herself and Shi Yunfen and others. Talent and potential were too far apart. Under the illumination of the light of the sea god, she did not even reach the black level assessment. However, after the purple light sank into her forehead and turned into a round purple light spot, Zizenzu's face immediately changed, from the previous loss to astonishment. She stared at the seahorse holy pillar in front of her, as if she had discovered something incredible. Seeing Zizenzu's expression as if she had seen a ghost, Yunfeng hurriedly stepped forward and asked, "What's wrong, Zizenzu? Is the test too difficult?" Zizenzu suddenly raised her hands and hugged Yunfeng directly, with a blush on her pretty face that was difficult to conceal. Then he turned to Seahorse Duo with a strange look and asked, "Senior, what will happen if I can't complete this test?" Seahorse Duo said, "Purple level tests are generally simpler and not difficult to complete. If you can't complete it within a month, you won't be hurt, but you must leave Seagad Island and you can't set foot on Seagad Island again." Chapter 471, Seahorse Duo is numb. As the chief examiner, he knew the test questions of Zizenzu. His face became very strange at this time, as if he wanted to laugh but barely held it back. Looking at Zizenzu's expression, Yunfeng also felt that something was wrong. "Zizenzu, what test makes you so shy?" In his impression, Zizenzu was not a person who would back down when faced with difficulties. Moreover, if the purple level test was so difficult, wouldn't the black level test and top level test that his wives would have to endure be as difficult as ascending to heaven? Thinking of this, Yunfeng wanted to say something, but he saw that Zizenzu's hands, which were directly holding Yunfeng, became stronger, and her arms wrapped around his thick neck, and her sweet lips offered, but with a bit of compulsion, kissed Yunfeng's mouth. This Juzuking, Ning Rong Narong, Dawu, Juzian, Shui Binger, Shui Douluo, Juguyan, Guiduina and others almost widened their eyes at the same time. They really couldn't believe that what was happening before their eyes was actually true. Yunfeng was also stunned by Zizenzu's kiss. Then he thought of something and hugged Zizenzu, responding seriously. 10 minutes later, the two separated. Zizenzu's head had one less purple stripe. A layer of purple halo suddenly surged out of Zizenzu's body. As the light was released, a strange triangular symbol floated up from her back. Then it was slowly imprinted on her back. Zizenzu clearly felt that the surrounding seawater seemed to become friendly, and everything here became so comfortable. The purple light lasted for half an incense stick before gradually disappearing. Zizenzu murmured under the surprised gaze of everyone, "My soul power has increased by 1 level." Hearing this, the girl's eyes lit up. If the purple level assessment can increase the soul power by 1 level after completing 1 level, what huge benefits will the higher black level and top level assessments have? Yunfeng didn't care about this, but looked at Zizenzu and asked directly, "Don't you still have 2 tests on you? Tell me what they are." After hearing this, Zizenzu was stunned and a blush appeared on her face. Yunfeng's words also attracted the attention of the girls, all of whom focused on Zizenzu. After feeling the gazes of the girls, Zizenzu said directly, "Give birth to a child." Her voice was so faint that if you didn't listen carefully, you might not notice what she said. The girls were all stunned. What kind of test is this? Although they came here with the mentality of getting some free stuff. This sea god is too frivolous! It's really too funny. Yunfeng was also stunned for a while. "It's good. Not very difficult." Zizenzu hummed in Yunfeng's arms. The next one to go up was Zhu Xiaoyun. Her test was the same as Zizenzu's. After hugging Yunfeng and kissing for 10 minutes, the third test of the purple level was also to give Yunfeng a child. Juguyan also walked forward at this time, and then said directly, "Senior, please let Lord Poseidon give me a test, and I will be Lord Poseidon's loyal believer in the future." Juguyan was not as silly as before during this period. After being with Yunfeng and others for a long time, he also learned bad things. Although he knew that this was a wool-pulling, he still pretended to be very serious. Seahorse Duo looked at Juguyan with a serious face, and thought to himself that the boy was really lucky. But according to the procedure, he still gathered his soul power again and began to communicate with the Seahorse Holy Pillar. When the blue light shone on Juguyan couldn't wait to watch the changes of the Seahorse Holy Pillar in front of him. The lines appeared, and the light on Juguyan's body changed quickly. It only took a few blinks of an eye to enter the black range. Seeing the black rising, Juguyan was also praying, "Higher, higher." However, in the end, she still dejectedly accepted the fate of the black 6-pointed star brand on her forehead. Like Shui Binger, she was also in the black level 6 test, and ultimately did not reach the level of Ning Rong Arong's top 7 test. After Juliana looked at it, she stepped forward and did not say much. Seahorse Duo started to operate directly, shining with blue light. The red light on Juliana also appeared quickly, but in the blink of an eye, it turned directly into black, and then continued to climb. Under the gaze of the women, it directly reached the red area. Seahorse Duo was numb. Are there going to be two great worshippers? This is not right. This has never happened before. However, at this point, Seahorse Duo could only treat Juliana like Ning Rong Arong, and then said exactly the same words. But this is not over yet. After Guiduina came up, she naturally had to accept the test, otherwise she would not be allowed in. Under the gaze of everyone, Guiduina directly signaled a reassuring look. Just kidding, when she was a god, the sea god didn't know where he was. Directly hide your talent. It wasn't too outrageous. It was just the 6th black level test. She didn't need this kind of thing. She came here because she was worried about Yunfeng's safety. After all, this was on the territory of the sea god, and Yunfeng was her hope. The only ones left were Yunfeng and Zhaowu. Only Yunfeng and Zhaowu had not yet accepted the test given by the sea god's light. Yunfeng walked slowly to the Seahorse Holy Pillar and smiled at Seahorse Duo. Senior, please. Among these people, the one that Seahorse Duo was most interested in was Yunfeng. He didn't know what level Yunfeng's strength was until now, so he didn't say much at the moment, and directly activated his soul power to unfold the sea god's light. The blue light shone everywhere, quietly bathing Yunfeng. But the strange thing was that after the blue light enveloped Yunfeng's body, it didn't change color as quickly as the others before. It still remained blue, but the light became stronger and stronger. This was the first time Seahorse Duo encountered such a situation. He also didn't understand why the blue light didn't change. Even if a soul master was weak, there would at least be a white level assessment, and the strength of the young man in front of him was obviously not bad. Just when everyone was surprised and puzzled that the light of the sea god didn't change color, the blue light on Yunfeng's body changed. It wasn't a change in color, it was a change in quantity. The original blue light suddenly split into two. The split light was thrown horizontally and fell on Zhaowu, who was holding Ning Rong Arong's arm. The blue light shook slightly, shaking Ning Rong Arong away, and then brought Zhaowu back to Yunfeng and stood still. Yunfeng, who noticed the abnormality, directly used his soul power to push Zhaowu away. He didn't want to see any accidents. Chapter 472. This sea god is quite stylish. The blue light froze for a moment, and then Yunfeng was so determined that there was no other movement. Zhaowu was also affected by the light of the sea god, and the light on her body began to change. The blue turned into white, and then quickly turned into yellow, spreading to purple and black without stopping. Then the black light suddenly jumped, and it was the beautiful crystal red again. A red light also rushed up to the sky and pierced the air. The blood-like light instantly climbed, making the clear blue sky in the sky flash with a blood light. The top 7 tests. Another top 7 tests. Seahorse Duo also opened his mouth wide at this time. How many years has it been since the top test appeared? But today, 3 appeared at once. However, what surprised Seahorse Duo even more was still to come. A red light flashed, and a red light curtain appeared in front of Zhaowu. Unlike Ning Rong Arong, there were not 7 light curtains in front of her. There was only 1 light curtain in front of her, a red one. The light surged, merged into her body from Zhaowu's forehead, and turned into a red light spot. It added a bit of radiance to her already beautiful face. Top level test. Seahorse Duo stared at Zhaowu in a daze. In his memory, top level tests only appeared very rarely, and there had never been a single test. Moreover, even as the chief examiner, he couldn't see clearly what Zhaowu was testing. These foreign land spirit masters seemed to have become synonymous with the word subversion. The red light sank into Zhaowu's forehead, but the light column did not disappear with it. It was just that the red light emitted by the Seahorse Holy Pillar disappeared in an instant. At this time, the light on Yunfeng's body also began to change. If the color of the light column of others was gradually changing when they accepted the test of the sea god's light, then the color of the light column covering Yunfeng was changing in a leap-like manner. Blue, white, yellow, and purple, these 4 colors all flashed and turned into the next one. at a very fast speed, even giving people a dizzying feeling. Even the change from purple to black was just a moment. The next moment, the black magic pattern climbed up at an extremely astonishing speed. The speed was so fast that it had surpassed all the people who had been tested before. Oh my god, is this another top-level test? Seahorse Douluo found that his heart could no longer bear such stimulation. As the guardian of the Seahorse Holy Pillar, let alone him, even the 7 Holy Pillars combined had never experienced such a special scene. However, the shock did not decrease because of Seahorse Douluo's changing mood, but reached an unprecedented height. The black magic pattern smoothly passed through the position of 2/3 of the Seahorse Holy Pillar, and the black color turned into blood red. The blood-colored magic pattern suddenly appeared, and this time the blood-colored magic pattern did not just jump a little on the basis of the original 2/3, but instantly hit the top and rushed straight to the highest point of the Seahorse Holy Pillar. A humming sound like the whimpering of the sea sounded from the Seahorse Holy Pillar, and then, a huge blood-colored light column that was 10 times stronger than the previous one caused by Zhou, Ning Rong Arong and Huliyin rose into the sky. The sea within the sea was boiling. At this moment, the entire sea within the sea suddenly raised huge waves as high as 100 meters, rising vertically. In the huge waves, a strong blue light burst out. The changes were not over yet. The entire Sea God Island seemed to tremble with the red light of the Seahorse Holy Pillar rising into the sky. Then, the women clearly saw that 6 huge blood-colored light pillars also rose into the sky. The 7 light pillars gathered at one point in the air. The next moment, the blood color faded, and from the point where they gathered, a golden light that was extremely brilliant fell from the sky. Everything seemed to have entered an absolute state of stillness at this moment. Only the brilliant and glorious light that was like the center point between the sea and the sky fell from the sky. Before this, Yun Feng had also seen golden soul power. The most representative one was undoubtedly Qi on Renxu's 6-winged angel martial spirit. However, the golden light in front of him was completely different from any golden light he had seen before. This is the majestic and magnificent light of the king. When it appeared, the entire Sea God Island, whether it is the 7 holy pillars, the forest, the hills, or the sea in the sea, has been completely rendered golden at this moment. Even all the Sea Soul Masters and the women were rendered with that special golden light. However, this golden light has only one destination, that is Yun Feng, who is standing under the Seahorse Holy Pillar and is a little dazed. Such a magnificent scene is no less than the majesty of nature. Yun Feng couldn't help but sigh that this sea god is quite stylish. The golden light column gave him a very strange feeling, as if something in his body was touched. Then, 9 square golden light curtains appeared out of thin air and appeared in front of him. The light on the first light curtain was the brightest, the other 8 sides seemed a little dim. Before Yun Feng could think more, these light curtains had already floated directly into his brow like golden meteors. Suddenly, a huge amount of information poured directly into his mind, and this information was vague, and only one of them could be identified clearly. Yun Feng understood that this was why Zhu Zuqing and Shui Binger sat down to think before. His mind was filled with the huge golden color. Then, Yun Feng felt a special energy fluctuation that was like a revelation. His whole body seemed to be immersed in a cool liquid, and he felt indescribably comfortable. In a subtle way, Yun Feng vaguely felt that his body had undergone some subtle changes in this golden light. He couldn't tell what it was, but the feeling was magical, as if his body's functions were straightened out, and he felt indescribably comfortable. He unconsciously opened his mouth and exhaled a breath of turbid air, which seemed to be the turbid air forced out by the golden light from all the impurities in his body. The golden light gradually faded, first from the air and the sea in the sea, and then from all directions. Yun Feng's body was the final destination of all the golden light, and the place where all the golden light finally converged was the center of his forehead, where it was not a star-shaped mark left. It was a golden trident mark. The light golden trident gave Yun Feng a majestic and noble feeling. Although he was just standing there, the trident gave him a feeling of looking down on the common people. The women were stunned when they saw Yun Feng's current appearance. Yun Feng was good looking to begin with, and now he had added a different kind of charm. "I can't help it," He slowly opened his eyes. The light in Yun Feng's originally black eyes looked even clearer. He raised his hand and subconsciously touched his smooth forehead. Although Yun Feng knew it, he still had to pretend that he didn't know at this moment. He asked the sculpture-like seahorse Duo, "Senior, the red one is the top assessment, and what is this gold one? I seem to need to complete 9 assessments to pass." Seahorse Duo shook his head vigorously. Looking at Yun Feng carefully again, he still saw the trident mark that was shining with brilliant golden light. "That's right, this is not a dream." "I don't know either." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 473 Poseidon. It seemed very difficult for Seahorse Duo to utter these 5 words. After hearing what Seahorse Duo said, Yun Feng could not help but be stunned. He seemed to have not expected that such a situation would occur in the sea god test. "What a beautiful trident, husband, you are even more handsome." Ning Rong could not help but admire. All the women nodded. Yun Feng could not see his own appearance, but he probably knew what he looked like now. So he smiled and said, "Trident, you said that the mark on my forehead is different from yours?" Ning Rong nodded, said, "It's different. There is a golden trident on your forehead. Very beautiful. It looks very noble." Yun Feng could not help but be a little speechless. He just wanted to get a reward, but this sea god seemed to regard himself as the heir. However, Yun Feng did not refuse anything. After all, the moon shadow sword did not react, and Guduina did not say anything, which meant that everything was still under control. "Senior, please think about it carefully. What exactly does the golden light represent just now? Am I facing the top 9 tests?" Seahorse Duo was about to speak. A leisurely voice came from afar, and the voice seemed to come from heaven, beautiful and melodious, but full of kindness. "Don't make it difficult for him. This situation has never happened since the appearance of Sea God Island. What you have to endure is not the top 9 tests, but the 9 tests of Sea God." The voice came from far away, and when the last word reached everyone's ears, in the distance, a red light spot slowly enlarged. Everyone just felt that the space seemed to be slightly distorted. The next moment, there was already one more person in front of the seahorse holy pillar. She looked about the same height as Guduina, and her whole body was covered in a layer of bright red robes. Her long sea blue hair was scattered behind her. Although it was not as long as Zhou's, it was close to her face after it was spread out. Her soft face looked at most about 30 years old. Her beauty came more from her temperament, nobility, elegance and warmth. In her right hand, she held a 3-meter-long scepter. The scepter was golden, just like the gold that appeared in the sky just now. It was engraved with magic patterns all over. The head of the scepter was a diamond-shaped protrusion like a spear. 5 inches below the tip of the spear, there was a diamond-shaped golden gem inlaid. If you just look at her appearance, she is definitely a rare beauty, and her temperament is incomparable to anyone. Even Bibi Dong is inferior to her in temperament, and is about the same as Tang Yue. Perhaps only Guduina can suppress her. Yun Feng knew that this should be Poseidon, the woman who fascinated Tang Chen and Qian Daliu, but she did have a capital. After all, her eyes alone, the clear blue eyes, were deeper than the sea, and the vicissitudes of kindness in them seemed to have experienced eternal years. How could these eyes be possessed by a 30-year-old woman? "See the great worshipper." Seahorse Duo bowed slightly and saluted the red-robed woman. "I failed to fulfill the instructions of the Lord of the Sea. Please punish me, Grand Priest." The red-robed woman smiled slightly, and the sea in the sea seemed to fluctuate because of her smile. "It's not your fault. This is also the first time I've seen such a situation." Her eyes moved around, and everyone present seemed to feel that she was looking at them. The red-robed woman's eyes finally fixed on Yun Feng, or rather, on the golden trident mark on his forehead. "Young man, I have waited for more than 100 years, and finally met you in my twilight years. Can you tell me about your origins?" Listening to her voice closely, Yun Feng immediately felt his heartbeat suddenly accelerate. Of course, it was not because of her beauty, but because her voice was full of touches from the depths of her soul. She looked like an ordinary human woman. Well, maybe it was because of her beauty. He was lustful, he admitted it. However, Yun Feng knew deeply that the woman in front of him was the sea god Douluo Poseidon, who had defeated Tang Chen and the great priest Qian Douluo of the Spirit Hall. It was like they didn't expect that the 5 great lords under Poseidon's seat would become 7. The women didn't expect that this peerless strong man who was as powerful as level 99 was actually a woman, and she was forever young, just like a 30-year-old. Her real age must be at least over 120 years old. What an enviable ability. Yun Feng looked at her eyes and didn't say anything, so he said neither servilely nor arrogantly, "I am Yun Feng, the current emperor of the Tandu Empire. I have met the great worshipper." There is no benefit for Yun Feng to hide it now. After all, he has already pulled his affinity and forgiveness sword to the extreme. Poseidon Douluo Poseidon flashed slightly and appeared on his side, without accepting his courtesy. "You are the emperor of the Tandu Empire. Why do you come to Poseidon Island?" Poseidon's heart is full of doubts now. What is all this? Yun Feng smiled. Can't the emperor of the Tandu Empire accept the test? And according to the map, Poseidon Island still belongs to my territory. Although Poseidon didn't want to admit it, it was true. The Poseidon was born in the Tandu Empire. After sighing, Poseidon said directly, "Your Majesty." Yun Feng smiled and supported her. No need to be polite. Let's talk about the assessment. Poseidon was also a little uncomfortable, so he nodded decisively. A trace of lost light flashed in Poseidon's deep blue eyes. Time flies so fast, it's been 100 years. Yun Feng didn't say anything, just listened to Poseidon's words quietly. Although his strength could not be compared with the 99-level sea god Douluo in front of him, he could also feel that sea god Douluo Poseidon had no ill will towards him, and if he really wanted to fight, he would not be defeated. After all, he still had Guduina by his side. Poseidon quickly came back to his senses and stared at Yun Feng. "Your Majesty Yun, look at me." Yun Feng stared into Bosaxi's eyes. His eyes were clear, without the slightest retreat. Bosaxi said solemnly, "From now on, you must remember that on Sea God Island, no one is qualified to accept your courtesy, including me." Yun Feng nodded, naturally knowing why. The previous etiquette was just the etiquette of meeting peers, but he didn't expect that this was avoided. "Okay." Bosaxi turned to Seahorse Douluo. "Ouya, pass on my order. Before these people complete the test of Lord Sea God, they are all VIPs of this island. No one may neglect or offend them. In addition to not helping them complete the test, try to meet their conditions as much as possible, and live in your Seahorse City. Also, gather the other 6 people to discuss matters in Sea God Temple tomorrow." "Yes." Seahorse Douluo agreed very respectfully, although he hadn't seen this great worshipper for 10 years. But on Sea God Island, Bosaxi is the supreme existence. Only the sea god himself can surpass her. Chapter 474 Failure, Death. Bosaxi's eyes fell on Yun Feng again, and he smiled and nodded to him. "Very good, very good. I believe that you will be able to pass the test of Lord Poseidon. If you need anything, you can ask Huya. Remember, you must complete at least one of the 9 tests of Poseidon every year, otherwise, all your efforts will be wasted." Yun Feng smiled and asked, "If I fail to pass the test, will the result be the same as the black level test, and I will die?" Bosaxi's face changed, and Yun Feng felt that his eyes were blurred, and Bosaxi had appeared only a few centimeters away from him. He could even smell the elegant fragrance on her body, but her originally kind eyes suddenly became cold, and the incomparable pressure attacked Yun Feng. But Yun Feng was not afraid, but looked at her with interest. Bosaxi was shocked when she saw this. She could clearly feel that Yun Feng's cultivation was only level 70, and he was still a Soul Emperor. He had not even obtained a soul ring to reach the Soul Saint, but he was not afraid of her pressure. This made her very puzzled, but she was relieved soon. "Because of this, perhaps you are qualified to accept the test of Lord Poseidon." The momentum suddenly subsided. "Yun Feng, you must remember, never let the idea of failure appear in your mind. I can tell you that your assessment is related to the survival of Poseidon Island. If you fail, then the consequence is not just death, it is much more terrible than death." As soon as the voice fell, everyone felt a red light in front of their eyes. The next moment, Poseidon Buo Bosexi, who was originally standing in front of Yun Feng, had disappeared. After Bosexi disappeared, the women were not as resistant to pressure as Yun Feng. They almost breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. Their faces were pale, and their foreheads were covered with beads of sweat. Too powerful, just the breath she just released. I felt like my body was about to be crushed. Zhu Xianyun said with lingering fear. Yun Feng did not speak. Bosexi's words before leaving were deeply imprinted in his mind, and he carefully pondered the chill in Bosexi's words. She found that the appearance of the Sigurd Buo should be because of her own Sigurd 9 tests. She was even alarmed, and said that her test was related to the entire Sigurd Island. Why? Could failure lead to the destruction of Sigurd Island? This was obviously impossible. Sigurd was not gone now, maybe it was just alarmist. Yun Feng didn't care much, and he didn't even plan to inherit this thing. What belongs to others is someone else's after all, not your own. Just when Yun Feng was thinking about this, Seahorse Buo's voice also sounded. Dear guests, please follow me. A rich blue light lit up from Seahorse Buo's hand. With a slight wave, a strange scene appeared. The seawater on one side of the sea in the sea surged, condensed in the air. In just a moment, it turned into a bridge. It was not the place where they came from, but it led to the deeper forest of Sigurd Island. Seahorse Buo's demeanor was very respectful, obviously because of what Sigurd Buo Bosexi said before. A powerful title Buo spoke to them so respectfully. The girls were a little uncomfortable. After all, they had seen titled Luos before. It was just that this was unexpected for them, so their eyes fell on Yun Feng. Yun Feng gathered his thoughts. He knew that this was not a good time to think deeply. He said to Seahorse Buo, "Excuse me, senior." When they stepped on the bridge made of seawater, they were surprised to find that the bridge was as solid as if they were standing on solid ground. There was crystal clear seawater under their feet. This strange feeling filled everyone's heart with freshness and curiosity. When they stepped on the shore, 10 yellow-clothed sea soul masters came up to greet them immediately. They stood respectfully on both sides and followed the crowd. Seahorse Buo did not walk in the first place. At his strong request, Yun Feng did not delay and walked in the first place directly. As they walked, Seahorse Buo smiled and said, "Dear guests, welcome to Poseidon Island. You may have to live here for a long time. There are not many rules on Poseidon Island. After you move into Seahorse City, you can decide when to start the test. You guests need to complete at least one assessment every year. You can experience the test tasks given by Lord Poseidon by yourself. The tasks are carried out in sequence. After each task is completed, the conditions for the next task will appear until all the tasks are completed. If you have any needs, you guests can ask and I will try my best to meet them. Another thing to note is that you can go anywhere on Poseidon Island except the central forbidden area, but please don't cover the mark on your forehead. It is a symbol of your identity." Yun Feng nodded and said, "Thank you for your guidance, senior. I hope you will take care of me in the future." Seahorse Buo smiled and said, "Mr. Yun, you are too polite. You are a distinguished guest appointed by the great priest. If you need anything, just let me know." After walking for about a quarter of an hour, they walked out of the woods and saw a city. This is a small city with a wall only 5 meters high. When they walked out of the woods, they were at a higher position and could see the appearance of the small city at a glance. This city is much smaller than the cities of the Tandu Empire. The most eye-catching thing is a tall building in the center of the city. The building looks a bit like the seahorse holy pillar, but it is much wider, and there is a huge seahorse statue on the top of the building. Seahorse Buo said, "There are 7 holy pillars and 7 cities on Sigurd Island. This is Seahorse City, which I guard. The building you see is the city lord's mansion. There are about 1,000 people living in Seahorse City, all of whom are the most loyal believers of Lord Sigurd." Huo asked doubtfully, "We heard that there are only more than 3,000 sea soul masters on Sigurd Island. There are more than 1,000 people in your Seahorse City. Aren't there very few sea soul masters in other cities?" Seahorse Buo smiled and said, "Not really. The so-called 3,000 sea soul masters refer to the 3,500 sea god warriors who guard Lord Sigurd. Each city is guarded by 500 soul masters. but Sigurd warriors can retire and enjoy their old age after they are over 70 years old. There are also children under 18 years old. Children who have not passed the test are not counted among the Sigurd warriors, so the actual number of people in each city is around 1,000. The number of people here is still relatively small. The largest Sea Dragon city has more than 2,000 people. Dear guests, please follow me into the city. This is indeed a small city, with only 4 basic gates. They are called city gates, but in fact they are more like palace gates. In front of the city gate that everyone came to, there were only 2 white and 2 yellow, 4 sea soul masters guarding. When they saw the black-clad seahorse Douluo appear, they all bowed and saluted, respectfully welcoming everyone into the city. However, although Seahorse City is small, it is also well equipped. The not-so-wide streets are very clean. The buildings on both sides are not tall, mainly made of wood and stone. There are not many shops, but they are real. Looking at the shops in these cities, it is hard to imagine that this is on an island, as if you have returned to the inland. Seahorse Douluo paused and said, "Everyone can temporarily settle down in the city lord's mansion to rest. I can't leave the Seahorse Holy Pillar for too long, so I usually practice under the Holy Pillar. The people here can basically be self-sufficient and grow some simple crops. With the nourishment of the sea, we can survive. So Sigurd Island does not need currency. Generally, transactions are made in the form of barter. Of course, our Sigurd Island also has special caravans that go out to buy. They will go out to sea once in a while to trade with nearby coastal cities and buy some necessities." Juzukin also asked directly at this time, "I heard that the Soul Masters on Sigurd Island cannot leave Sigurd Island." Seahorse Douluo smiled slightly and then said, "The fleet of Sigurd Island is not composed of Soul Masters of Sigurd Island, but some Sea Soul Masters who do not belong to Sigurd Island, or Sea Soul Masters who have failed the test. To be precise, every once in a while, they will send a batch of supplies to the island in exchange for some special products on the island." Ning Rong said simply, "This is not good, it's unstable. If those people don't want to send things to Sea God Island one day, and the Soul Masters of Sea God Island can't go out, won't it be troublesome?" Seahorse Douluo was very respectful to Ning Rong. "All Sea Douluo are children of Lord Sea God. No one will betray. Sea God Island is the holy land of Sea Douluo." Yun Feng nodded slightly. The situation of Sea Soul Masters is indeed different from that of Land Soul Masters. It can be seen from the Purple Pearl Pirates. This Sea God Island is the absolute belief of Sea Soul Masters. It is not like the Spirit Hall that relies on the people's hearts to rule. It does not promote the angel belief. The cohesion of Sea Soul Masters is much stronger. This is also the reason why the Spirit Hall has never reached out to the Sea Soul Masters. Of course, this is also closely related to the fact that Sea Soul Masters will not affect the interests of the Spirit Hall. Just like the most powerful Land Soul Masters will be greatly restricted when they come to the sea, the most powerful Sea Soul Masters will also be greatly reduced when they come to the land. Therefore, the two sides have been at peace. Yun Feng only wanted to say that Poseidon did a good job of brainwashing. At least no one dared to resist him. Entering the Seahorse City, Yun Feng and his party immediately attracted a lot of attention, but with Seahorse Douluo there, no Sea Soul Master in the city dared to approach. The sky phenomenon had already spread throughout the Seahorse Island, and the phenomenon appeared in Seahorse City. It was impossible for Yun Feng and his party not to attract attention, especially the mark on their foreheads was too obvious. As long as you pay a little attention, you can hear the exclamations from the residents of Seahorse City. The city lord's mansion is smaller than expected. In addition to Seahorse Douluo, there are more than 10 Sea Soul Masters who have passed the purple level test. They can be said to be the backbone of Seahorse City. The city lord's mansion is divided into 3 floors. At the strong request of Seahorse Douluo, the room he lived in was vacated and given to Yun Feng. Although the area of the 3rd floor is not small, there is no room separated. A huge living room is more than 200 square meters, but there is only one bedroom. But this was convenient for Yun Feng and the others. After all, they were an old couple and had never slept in separate beds since they got together. After Seahorse Douluo settled everyone, he left immediately, without asking, Everyone knew that he was going to convey the order of the great priest Sea God Buo Bosaksi. Ning Rongarong sat down on the soft sofa in the third floor hall and let out a long breath. That's great. I didn't expect it would be so smooth after coming here. Husband, what are you going to do next? Everyone sat down one after another. Yun Feng pondered for a moment and said, we did successfully enter the Sea God Island, but this is just the beginning. What's more important for us is whether we can complete those tests. Now only Zizhenzu and Zhuzian are considered easy, and the lowest of us has the black level 5 test. Judging from the expression of Seahorse Buo at that time, the test we have to go through will never be easy. Everything still needs to be planned in the long run. The first thing we have to face is the first test. What is everyone's first test? Shui Binger said in a deep voice. My first test is very strange. It's called crossing the light of the sea god. What about you? Juzukin was stunned for a moment and then said, mine is the same. Our first test is the same. The other women didn't have time to check what their first test was. They immediately concentrated their minds and calmed their spirits. Their mental power was connected with the mark on their foreheads, and each other's first test gradually emerged. Same. I also traveled through the light of the sea god. To everyone's surprise, their first test was exactly the same, including Ning Rongarong, Douluo, and Huliina, who were in the top 7 tests, and they also traveled through the light of the sea god. Husband, what is your first test? Yun Feng's eyes seemed a little strange. My first test is to travel through the double light of the sea god. Everyone looked at each other, and then looked at Yun Feng, and they were all a little speechless. This is naked targeting. Juzukin thought for a while and said, the first test is to travel through the light of the sea god. Tips: go to the core forbidden area of the Sea God Island, climb the first 108 steps of the forbidden area, and you will be considered to have passed the test. You can quit halfway, and the time limit is 1 year. Yun Feng scratched his head. With his calm mind, he looked at everyone's eyes and revealed a bit of helplessness. The first test is to cross the double Seagad light. Tip: go to the core forbidden area of Seagad Island. Climb the first 333 steps of the forbidden area. You will be deemed to have passed the test. You can quit midway. The time limit is 1 year. Zhuzian was surprised and said, isn't it double? How come your number of steps is almost 3 times ours? Yun Feng knew it, but it was not convenient to say it at this time. After all, this place is on Seagad Island. How should I know? However, now is not the time to discuss this. Since everyone's first test is similar, let's analyze it briefly. Judging from the test prompts and the test name, the first test we have to pass should be to pass through a special defense forbidden by Seagad Island, similar to the light that Seahorse Buo blocked the sky today, and the Seagad light of Seagad on Seagad Island. It must be stronger in strength. I guess we have to bear great pressure every time we pass a step. Everyone nodded. Ning Rongarong spoke with a bitter face. I thought I was the same as you, but it turns out I'm different. I have to climb 136 steps to pass through the light of the sea god. This is the difference between the top level assessment and the black level assessment. Chapter 475 Forbidden Land. Douluo and Huliina both nodded. We too. Douluo and Huliina touched Ning Rongarong's arm and said soothingly, it's okay, it's just 136 steps. We'll accompany you, but I'm an auxiliary spirit master. After Ning Rongarong said this, everyone laughed, but while they were talking, Yun Feng suddenly laughed a few times. I suddenly thought of a question. If the light of the sea god is a barrier to block the invasion of enemies, it will bring us pressure when we step into it. Then, will this pressure stimulate our own potential? If the answer is yes, then this first assessment is the same for everyone, which will only be a good thing for us. The women are all smart people. Everyone looked at each other and immediately understood what Yun Feng meant. Shui Yuer said directly, we'll go and have a look after we have a break. 1 year sounds short, but from the look on Seahorse Buo's face, it's not easy to pass this assessment. We have to hurry up. While everyone was talking, a purple-clothed Sea Soul Master came to the 3rd floor and told everyone that lunch was ready and invited them to have a meal. The place to eat was on the 1st floor. Seahorse Buo had already left and asked someone to leave a message for Yun Feng and others, asking them to ask the purple-clothed Sea Soul Master here if they had any needs. The lunch was very rich, much better than that of the Purple Pearl pirates. There were lobsters over 2 feet long and king crabs 1 foot in diameter. There were also various shellfish, fish and some vegetables as staple food. The food in the Purple Pearl pirates was very ordinary these days, so today we only had some breakfast. After working hard to come to the Sea God Island, everyone was not polite. They immediately started eating. Yun Feng was no exception. Douluo only ate some green vegetables. After all, she was a rabbit, but Yun Feng tried to pick out some lobster meat and crab meat and fed it to her. She ate it, because these marine creatures were cooked while alive, and they tasted very delicious and nutritious. Yun Feng was the last one to finish eating, and seeing everyone's satisfied look, he smiled and said, "It seems that our treatment is really not low. Should we go to see the sea god's light tomorrow, or go in the afternoon?" Gu Duin thought for a while and said, "Let's go in the afternoon. You are here to practice, and you can't waste any time." After eating, everyone should go back and rest for an hour. Your conditions should be almost adjusted to the best, and then we will go and see it. Everyone nodded in agreement and went back to the room to rest. It didn't take long to rest, and an hour passed. Yun Feng and others came to the 3rd floor together and invited a purple-clothed sea soul master. "Dear guests, are you going to the forbidden area?" Hearing that everyone said they were going to the forbidden area of Sea God Island, the purple-clothed sea soul master, who was about 50 years old, was very surprised. Yun Feng said seriously, "It's like this. We accept the test given by the sea god. The first test is to travel through the sea god's light. Therefore, we must go to the forbidden area of the Sea God Island. So I'm sorry to bother you." The purple-clothed sea soul master suddenly realized and said, "Okay, then I will take you there. Do you need anything else?" Yun Feng looked at the girls and saw that they didn't need anything, so he shook his head to indicate that he didn't need anything. Under the leadership of the purple-clothed sea soul master, everyone left the seahorse city and headed straight out of the city. As they walked, Ning Rong asked Yun Feng in a somewhat puzzled voice, "Husband, isn't this too easy? We are going to a forbidden area. Why did this purple-clothed sea soul master take us there without asking any questions?" Yun Feng thought for a moment and then smiled and said in a voice transmission, "Easy? The easy here represents how difficult the test we are going to encounter is. If I guess correctly, there are several reasons why this purple-clothed sea soul master agreed to take us to the forbidden area without hesitation. First, it is because of the mark on our foreheads. If I guess correctly, when the sea god bestows the test, not only will the strength and potential of the person being tested be taken into consideration, but for outsiders like us, there should also be factors of character. We have all received high-level tests, especially since we have alarmed the great worshipper sea god Douluo, so they don't need to have any doubts about us. Secondly, since we are going to accept the first test in the Sea God Island forbidden area, then the defense of this Sea God Island forbidden area must be extremely amazing, including the Sea God's light that we are going to endure. But we are here to get some free stuff, so don't worry about it. So don't worry about whether it's easy or not." When he said this, his eyes lit up. Wrong. I don't know if you noticed, when this purple-clothed sea soul master heard that our first test was the light of the sea god, there was even a bit of pity in his eyes. You can imagine how terrible the light of the sea god is. Zhu Xian laughed and said, "Husband, you are still amazing." Yun Feng smiled and said, "Are you tempting me?" Zhu Xian smiled charmingly and said directly, "You can think so." Seeing this, the other women also said the same thing, which made Yun Feng's heart flutter. After leaving Seahorse City, the purple-clothed sea soul master said to everyone, "From Seahorse City to the Forbidden Land, there is still a long way to go. Distinguished guests, should we speed up?" Yun Feng thought for a moment and asked directly, "How far is it from here?" The purple-clothed sea soul master said, "The Forbidden Land is in the middle of the circular sea in the center of the Sea God Island. It is about 200 miles from here." After hearing what he said, everyone had an intuitive understanding of the area of the Sea God Island. This huge island has a diameter of up to 400 miles, which shows how large its area is. "Then let's speed up. I'll trouble you to lead the way." Although 200 miles is not too far, if you walk, You may not be able to reach it in a day. Only by moving at full speed can you reach the destination in a short time. When the purple-clothed Sea Soul Master asked questions, he always asked Yun Feng. This was obviously because of the golden three-pronged mark on Yun Feng's forehead. After getting Yun Feng's approval, the Soul Master immediately released his martial soul. White, yellow, purple, 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 black, black. 7 soul rings suddenly appeared. He was actually a Soul Saint level warrior. When he released his martial soul, his whole body was covered with a layer of fine scales, and his whole body was gray and bright. Because they didn't know much about Sea Soul Masters, everyone didn't know what his martial soul was. After signaling to everyone, the purple-clothed Sea Soul Master suddenly accelerated, and the way his body moved forward was very strange. His feet almost didn't leave the ground, but his footsteps were incredibly fast, rushing forward like an arrow. Everyone didn't dare to neglect it, and they also released their martial souls. Bei Chen Xiong spread his wings and caught up with the purple-clothed Soul Saint in almost a flash. The others were not slow either. They accelerated at the same time under the release of their martial souls and caught up. After the purple-clothed Sea Soul Master moved forward for a while, he was afraid that everyone could not keep up. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.